Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Wise Guys, the largest BYU sports live stream show in the whole world, presented by Brady Plus, Eddie, and Mountain America Credit Union. Wise Guys is distributed by the Deseret News. Watch for this week's new podcast, wherever you get your podcast. That'll be out tomorrow. It's the last day of June, which means football is just weeks away.
Yeah, football starts next month, like the month that starts tomorrow, which is crazy. And hey, by the way, the chat is already just rolling.
It's summertime,
today.
and there's some hot topics.
Yeah, Roseville, California is in the house. That's Dr. Sean Woodland. And Ed Bunch is in the house from St. George. Best night of the week, says Mark Axel. Rob from Ridgecrest, California is in the house. Paul Lacey from Cache Valley. Joel Halverson from Pleasant Hill, California, ready for a great show. And Rick Platts from Tokyo. Keep the faith. Go Cougs. So
let's do it.
It's fun. Jim Williamson, hot temperature greetings from North Carolina. I was just there a couple of weeks ago.
Hey, keep those your way. It's plenty hot here.
It's fun. And we love that when we come on the air, you guys are already there. You're already talking to one another. You got this thing going. Hey, don't forget while you're doing stuff to subscribe to our free email at wiseguys.com. You can also watch all of our past content at the site. Go visit the site if you haven't. We'd love you if you would also hit your subscribe button on your YouTube channel if you're watching it on YouTube. So that all helps us keep rolling.
How about Robbie on the stream says, in from Dallas, bring it.
Yeah, Robbie, that's right.
We're bringing it. We're going to bring it tonight.
We're bringing it.
There's Blackfoot, Idaho in the house. Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers, and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country and over 6,000 employees. Plus,
then our Mountain America Credit Union partners. There are BYU fans. Then there are real BYU fans. Since you are the real deal, we want to highlight for you the BYU credit card from Mountain America Credit Union. Not only can you choose from 2 impressive designs, you can also get a $100 bonus for a limited time. Apply for your BYU credit card featuring a $100 bonus at any Mountain America branch or at macu.com/BYU Visa. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. That offer ends tonight at midnight.
That's right.
So go on and apply for a credit card. Hey, it's got cool designs, BYU Visa, and walk around no matter where you're at. You throw that thing out, everybody knows you're BYU.
There you go. Also on the stream tonight, Trent from Orem, James from Provo. Let's see.
We got Vancouver, Washington in the house.
South Jordan, Utah. There's West Jordan, Utah. We got the Jordans covered. Ohio.
Yeah, we got West,
California.
South, Saratoga Springs.
John Crowder has a question about Jake Retzlaff. We'll talk about Jake coming up here in just a minute. Wise Guys also presented by Eddie, HR and payroll software for small businesses. Whether you run a dental office in Spanish Fork, Utah, or a construction crew in Lehigh or Timbuktu for that matter.
That's right.
Eddie helps you hire, onboard, track time, and run payroll all in one place. Simple, local, reliable, built by business owners who believe people come first. See how Eddie can serve your team at eddie.com.
And then the Deseret News is Wise Guys distribution partner. Deseret News, Deseret.com, Utah's newspaper since 1850.
It's an exciting week. The 4th of July is a few days away, and Utah County is the best place to be.
It's the best 4th of anywhere in the country.
As far as we know.
The only fireworks that rival it, and this is a homeboy saying this from New York, but if you're watching the fireworks over the New York Harbor, over the Statue of Liberty, that's kind of cool.
That's got some built-in stuff.
But outside of that, nothing rivals the Stadium of Fire.
It's going to be sweet. Lynn's in from Alabama tonight. Mark Actual from Bountiful, Utah, checking in. Yeah. We want to congratulate Zach Muir and Chase Stewart. They each won a pair of tickets to see Rascal Flatts at Stadium of Fire Friday night at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. We had this big contest last week with Jim Evans here, the executive director of America's Freedom Festival at Provo. And we appreciate everybody that got involved, and that was a lot of fun. And Zach and Chase and their dates are going to the show on Friday night.
That's pretty cool. Congratulations. And you'll see Dave there because he's emceeing. And the big question, Dave, was, were you going to get to introduce Rascal Flatts, or did they have their own little introduction? But you get to introduce them.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, but I like that kind of pressure.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And so you'll all see Dave there.
It'll be fun.
You might see me there because I'm going to be there. We're going to be...
You're just being there with like 46,000 others?
Yeah, with 46,000 others and 22 of my own family.
Yeah.
So we're going to sit in the plaza boxes there. Not up in the press box, but those little plaza boxes on the west side. So
Good.
if you see me, make sure you come up and say hi to me.
Say hi to Blaine.
Glad to see you.
Nick's in from Pensacola, Florida. The McCaes are in from Montana. Good to see you guys here. Let's see. Trent says, we did the fireworks over Niagara Falls. Very disappointing.
Yeah.
Provo Freedom Festival does it better.
Yeah, Niagara Falls. That's small town New York. So, hey, how about Todd and Betsy checking in from Costa Rica? Did you mention that?
Oh, no, I didn't. How about that?
Yeah, and the McCays, always from Drummond, Montana, are always here. But that's kind of fun. Alabama was in the house too, watching from Alabama. Lynn Flinton.
Let's talk about what we've got on this big show tonight. We have some great guests, and we're going to run the gamut of things to talk about. BYU football quarterback Jake Retzlaff is leaving. 5-star prospect Ryder Lyons is on his way. BYU beat writer for the Deseret News, Jay Drew, has been following this Retzlaff story right from the start, and he's going to join us live in just a few minutes, and we'll get his take on the latest developments. And it's been quite a last 48 hours.
Yeah, wild. And then the latest BYU basketball news, including an amazing story, really, that it will connect BYU grad Jared Price with late Krešimir Ćosić in a very unique way. We're going to cover that tonight.
That one's going to be cool.
It's kind of fun.
Plus sports and our psyche, author, educator, and motivational speaker John Bytheway is on tonight, and he's going to deliver his 5 favorite pieces of advice.
We need some advice. And you know what? We need him to get into our psyche.
Yeah, he's going to get in.
All of us here, everybody on the chat, we need him to get into our psyche.
Hey, there's Rosa from Lexington, Virginia, visiting family here. Good to see you there. There's what is that? Cedro Woolley, Washington, in on the stream, and South Carolina.
Nick Smith's from Pensacola, down in Florida.
Okay.
Probably warm down there.
We're all over the place. Hey, Wise Guys is proud to be a Thrive sponsor of the upcoming Ephraim Hope Charity Golf Tournament. It's Tuesday, August 5th at the Cedar Hills Golf Club. Going to be a great day. Shotgun start at 8 when it's a tiny bit cooler. Scramble format, raffle prizes, lunch. All for a powerful cause, and that's really why Wise Guys is involved, helping kids in Uganda attend private school.
Yeah, Creed Construction's this year's title sponsor, which is awesome. We'd love for you to go join us. Become a Hope sponsor yourself. That gets you a foursome, a custom banner, your logo on all of the marketing, and includes a guest spot on our show too, by the way. So if you go become a sponsor, then we're going to bring the sponsors on, and
it's going to change your life.
You get a little guest appearance on the show, which is pretty fun. Sign up today at ephraimhope.org. Jack's going to put there. The link's in the chat. Well, it'll be in the chat. The link's in the chat. Yeah, some more info. But yeah, it's a great cause, and we had a lot of fun at that last year. So come join us, and if you want to be a sponsor, that'd be amazing. So
on the stream, there's this question from Clay from South Carolina. Will Wise Guys be at East Carolina in September? That answer is no, because these two Wise Guys will be in studio in Provo on game day. Yeah, we have to be in studio.
Spencer will be back there, but Dave and I will be kind of anchoring it down here in Provo in the studio at BYU TV and go back and forth with Spencer. And but if you want to watch us, we're going to do a great pregame and postgame show.
There's Treyson in from Charlottesville, Virginia. We're all over the East Coast here tonight.
Charlottesville is the home of the UVA, University of Virginia, and that's where my oldest went to law school and visited several times. That is, Treyson, that is a gorgeous city. My goodness, I love Charlottesville, Virginia.
Alan is in from Apple Valley, California. Great to have the stream hopping today. Let's jump into some BYU football. Jake Retzlaff going to enter the transfer portal and find a new home for his final season of college football. He reportedly faced a 7-game suspension for honor code violations. If he stayed, he wouldn't be eligible to play until after the Utah game on October 18th. Last Friday, his attorneys filed their response to the civil action against him, where a woman was seeking monetary damages from an alleged sexual assault in November of 2023. Through his attorney, Retzlaff denied all charges, and today, Monday, the case was dismissed. Jake is reportedly finding a landing spot just a month out of fall camp for about everybody. He graduated this spring, and so his ability to move around
really easy
is a lot easier. But Blaine went 11-2 last year as a starter, 10 wins against power conference programs, most in program history. And Cougar Nation still trying to figure out how they should feel about all this.
Yeah, and I mean, I know how you and I are close to Jake. He's a friend off the field as well for us. So we're just rooting for him to be able to navigate through all of this and find a great place. And we do know this. Like immediately there were Power 4 programs interested in him. And he narrowed it down to just 2 or 3, like within a day. And so he's not going to have a problem finding a place to play. I hope it's a great fit for him, and I hope that he can move beyond all this stuff and just have a great experience wherever he is. He's a good kid.
The second thought is, well, what does that mean for BYU? They've got to decide on a new quarterback, McCae Hillstead, Treyson Bourguet, or Bear Bachmeier. So they've got that task. They can also put this distraction behind them ahead of the Big 12 meetings. And let's be honest, it was a giant distraction.
Yeah.
About as big of a distraction as you could possibly think of.
Yeah, and it's the only thing that could have been worse in terms of distraction if it would have been in the middle of a season, right?
Yeah.
So in the offseason, it's a little less, but absolutely had an impact on what was going on over at the football office, and it was just kind of hanging over everything there for a while. And so, so now you got Treyson Bourguet and McCae Hillstead and Bear Bachmeier. How timely was Bear Bachmeier's transfer in?
Pretty timely.
Yeah,
Timely.
And he'll compete. The nice thing is you got Treyson and you've got McCae, who have both been in the program for more than a year now, and both had a couple of spring balls. They know the offense. They know what has to be done. And I'll go back to something I said last week when we were hypothesizing. Is that a word?
It is now.
Okay. Well, we were saying, hey, if we were actually saying, what if Jake isn't back, right? And we talked about who could play. We talked about all three, but I'm going to go back to what Kalani said to me. This is like a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about what he needed Jake to do if he did play, and he said, "I need Jake to get better at managing the game." And I need him. He doesn't need to carry this team. The team is so loaded on defense, and there's so many weapons on offense that we need somebody at that position that manages the game really well, gets the ball out on time to the right spots. There's a ton of playmakers at wide receiver, running back, and tight end now this year with a really good offensive line to get the ball to the right people, distribute the football, and not turn it over. That's what we need to compete for a championship. Now, he was talking about Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody's like, well, we lose Jake. Well, I think these guys are capable of doing what Kalani was describing because they've been here long enough. They understand it. They've played in Division I games. Treyson, how many did he appear in? I'm trying to remember.
I think he had 8 and Hillstead had 6.
He played in 10. He played in 10 games. Treyson did. I'm going to give you his numbers. 111 of 212, 1,314 yards, 6 touchdowns, and also had 219 yards rushing. His best game was against Ball State. He went 24 of 39 for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 42-24 win. So he's played in games at Division I level. And McCae, he played in 8 games, but he started 4 games, right? And so 94 of 158, just right around 60%, 1,062 yards, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. His best game was against James Madison, so not quite as impressive as Ball State. But JMU was, at the time when he played, it was one of the best FCS programs in the country. Now they've made the jump to FBS, but 25 of 47, 399 yards and 4 touchdowns, a freshman record at Utah State. They're 2,000. Both of these guys have thrown for over 1,000 yards in Division I football, and now they've been here for a year. They both have live arms. They're both athletic. McCae is really athletic. And then there's Bear Bachmeier, who's the most talented quarterback in the system. Even if Jake was here, he'd be the most talented quarterback in the system. But he's a true freshman, and he needs to learn the system. So you're not in bad shape, Dave. Not to do what Kalani was describing he needed his quarterback to do.
So tonight at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, I've got a story dropping on Deseret.com. We'll hear from Max Hall, John Beck, and Riley Nelson on how these three can get ready in 3 months for the Colorado Big 12 opener on September 27th. That's the conference opener. There's 3 months to get them ready for that. So that's at Deseret.com later tonight. Our first guest this evening has been following this Retzlaff story as the BYU beat writer for the Deseret News. And he's been one of the most thorough reporters on this, and certainly on Sunday. It's our pleasure to welcome back to the Wise Guys, Jay Drew, as we say hi to Neil from Jersey City. So we're all over the place, Jay. A lot of people are ready to hear what you have to say. So good evening. Thanks for being here. And let's just start with your reaction to the Retzlaff decision to move on.
Yeah, my initial reaction was not a surprise. We'd heard rumblings the last couple of weeks that a suspension was coming down. Frankly, I I was a little surprised by the number of games, 7, which his sources told me is accurate. But not surprised that once Jake got the verdict, as it were, from BYU, that he would move on, especially when it was 7 games. That's more than half the season. That's after the Utah game in mid-October. So when all that was put together, my initial reaction was not a surprise. And, Jake's got to do what's best for him and his career. And obviously, if he thinks he's an NFL draft prospect, playing in only 5 games is not going to put a lot of film on tape. He's already got a good solid season of film behind him, but that's probably not going to answer a lot of questions. And so I think Jake has to do what's the best for him in his own best interest, and obviously he's, by all accounts, is moving on.
Do you think, Jay, that if it came back and it was like, listen, you're going to have to sit for 2 games and do these things, that with a 2-game suspension, do you think he would have come back to BYU with that?
I do. I think anything above 3 games meant he was moving on. Talked to a couple of sources, some of whom I've alluded to in my articles, and they have all told me that Jake loves BYU. He loves Kalani Sitake. He especially loves Aaron Roderick and Aaron Roderick's offense, and he absolutely did not want to leave BYU. But the number of game suspension is what basically showed him the door, as it were.
On the live stream, Jordan Banks taking a break from surfing at the Outer Banks of North Carolina to get my wise guys
That
fixed.
is something, right?
There's Ryan, who's checking in from Memphis. We're with Jay Drew of the Deseret News. Under these circumstances, Jay, is this the best scenario for BYU to have Retzlaff leave and finish somewhere else and just start anew, even though it's June 30th?
Yeah, I think so. I think the distraction would have been too much. Even if it was a couple of game suspension, I still think it would have been a big distraction at next week's Big 12 media days. Best case scenario for BYU probably would have been that this happened a month ago. But it didn't, and due process had to kind of work its way out, and investigations had to take place, interviews had to be done, and so it is what it is. It's, like you said, June 30th, a month away from fall camp. But yeah, I think, and I heard Blaine mention this before I came on, is getting Bear Bachmeier, I think, is going to turn out to be absolutely huge for BYU. Even if he doesn't start the opening game, even if he doesn't start until week 6, maybe even if he doesn't start the entire season, I think that's a pretty huge development. And I don't know which BYU coach got him, convinced him, persuaded him to come to BYU, but that guy deserves a gold star.
Yeah. Well, and we did hear that BYU kind of was number 2 with him, Jay, when he committed to Stanford, but Stanford promised him, we're going to build this offense around you, and you're going to start as a freshman and all this, and then the coach gets fired, and they're not going to run the same offense, and so all of a sudden it's like, well, my number 2 is BYU. I wonder how that would work out, and then BYU did a great job of showing him where he would fit in and how they would run this offense and how it would work for him, and then he was in, which is awesome. So it's that whole offensive staff. So back to the Jake thing a little bit. What message does this send to BYU student athletes in all sports as far as the honor code goes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously BYU is going to stand behind its honor code. It has proved that in the past, and it proved that again. And as far as, every human being is different. Everybody's different. There are all kinds of different athletes at BYU in different religious backgrounds and upbringings. And I would just say it's probably up to the individual athlete how they are going to perceive this. But I think BYU has been pretty clear on this, what they are going to do when things like this are made public. And let's admit it, there's been a public confession on this. And so there's not any sort of behind the scenes wondering and investigating or whatever. It's been out there pretty publicly.
BYU beat writer for the Deseret News, Jay Drews on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, Eddie, Mountain America Credit Union, and distributed by the Deseret News. I also work for the Deseret News, so there's no conflict of interest here. We're all in.
You guys are workmates.
It's the whole thing.
Good.
So, Jay, what does BYU do now? Do they go with Hillstead or Bourguet or give Bachmeier a chance as a freshman coming in to win the job? That'll now be outside of the residue of Retzlaff. That'll be your number one summer assignment, is following that story. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was coming into this summer thinking, I don't have a quarterback derby to worry about. You're not on pins and needles worrying that there's going to be an announcement any day during fall camp. But now there will be, obviously. My gut reaction is go with McCae Hillstead. That's just Jay Drew, my own opinion speaking. I thought of those two that Hillstead looked a little bit better running the offense in the media viewing portions of spring camp than Bourguet did. Bourguet was a little I don't want to say inaccurate, but he needs to work on his accuracy a little bit more, at least from my perception. And I also thought Hillstead's speed can really be used as a weapon. And he is really fast, you guys. I don't know if you've seen him. There was one play that he just outran corners, outran safeties to the end zone. So I would say that. I would also say that don't discount Bachmeier, who from all I've heard, is a quick study, a fast learner. If he can pick up the offense, clearly he's the best, highest ceiling guy in the room right now, and the best athlete with the best frame. And so I would say, Hillstead to me would be the opening day choice, but keep Bachmeier in the wings if anything goes wrong. The Bear Bachmeier era begins at BYU.
Yeah, how big a hit does BYU take in the preseason polls with the loss of Retzlaff and an unknown at quarterback? It seems like they already took a little bit of a hit, well, actually a big hit, just with the news of the possibility that Retzlaff could have some issues. Now that it's official and he's moving on, is there more of a hit, or is that already been anticipated with the news from weeks ago?
I think it takes a little bit more of a hit, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people thought that this would be that he would stay at BYU and that 3 games or 2 games and he'd be back out there. So yes, I think I was talking to exchanging emails with a guy from one of the Las Vegas radio shows today, and he says he thinks that their win total will drop. I think right now it's at 7.5 on the books. That it'll drop to 6.5, maybe even 6 or 5.5. So yeah, I think it's already starting to take effect. There's
another quarterback that made headlines last week. It's been quite a week. 5-star prospect Ryder Lyons committing to the Cougars. Kalani is losing Retzlaff, but he is right in the middle of the biggest recruiting haul in program history. Got another commitment today from an Orem Tiger just up the road. And the whole gamut of emotions here at BYU football.
Yeah, it's been quite a week. Ryder Lyons committing. I saw something on the internet. You can't believe everything you see, that he might be trying to reclassify to join the Cougars.
I saw that too.
Cougars now. I got a chuckle out of that. That would have to move heaven and earth for that to happen. It's a great get for Kalani Sitake. I mean, in my little opinion piece that I wrote, I called it a seminal moment in BYU football history. I think it's. We might be looking 10 years from now, pointing back to that moment of Ryder Lyons committing and saying that was one of the key turning points.
What's changed? Like, those of us kind of on a little bit of the outside looking in, we always compare BYU and say, how do they match up against Stanford, Oregon, and Utah? Because those seem like the schools that recruit LDS athletes and go head-to-head with BYU in a bunch. And right now, and they're not all in yet, but it's looking like almost a clean sweep, but at least a 90-something% sweep of athletes that those 3 schools have been recruiting. What changed? Because that wasn't happening before now.
Yeah, I think 3 reasons. Number 1 is the Big 12 membership, Power 4 conference membership. Number 2 is BYU's success last season, showing that they could play with the big boys. They went 11-2. And number 3 is Kalani Sitake's culture has spread, word of it and has spread, and you literally have his own players doing recruiting for him, and recruits like Brock Harris, for instance, recruiting to that culture. And so I think those 3 kind of elements are kind of what stand out to me as what has changed in the last couple of years.
Conrad's on the stream from Granite Bay. Do you know where Granite Bay is? Feels like.
Is Granite Bay over in Northern California?
I don't know. Granite Bay.
Do you know, Jay, where Granite Bay is? I don't know.
I wanted to say Northern California, like
near Santa Cruz,
City, where Cody Hoffman was from.
It could be, yes. Yeah. Steve's from New Hampshire. We know where that is.
And we know where
Larry's
Orem is.
From Orem.
Yeah, we know where Orem is.
All right, Jay, last question for you, because you've got a date with your wife tonight, and we promised to have you off by 6:30. What are you going to write about next that's going to have us all going, wow? What are you working on?
Yeah, I've, you guys probably know Chris Burgess's wife wrote a book about Behind the Bench, about memoirs of their times overseas. So I've got a piece coming out on her and why she wrote the book. And I got a piece coming out on Keelan Marion, or how BYU will move on without Keelan Marion. Kind of a little bit of behind the scenes of why he ended up leaving and what BYU did to try to keep him and wasn't successful, obviously.
All right. We'll look forward to reading
good
that.
Stuff.
By the way, Granite Bay is just outside Sacramento.
So we did. NorCal was right.
We were in the right state.
But I was a little too over toward the coast. So
Jay, we appreciate your work. We'll read more in the Deseret News at Deseret.com. So thanks for your insights tonight, and we will be together again soon. Appreciate it.
We will. See you guys later.
Thanks, Jay.
Jeff.
That's Jay Drew. You can read him in the Deseret News at Deseret.com as well. And he's been thorough on this Retzlaff story. And I love our relationship because, as the beat writer, he goes after stuff. And as a columnist, then you get to just kind of explain, this or that, give your opinion or write fun stories, but that's where the work is done when you're on the beat.
Yeah.
A couple of key dates before we get to our next guest. First of all, Stadium of Fire is Friday at Lavelle Edwards Stadium with Rascal Flatts. That's the last major event before BYU takes the field on that field against Portland State on August 30th. Big 12 Media Days coming up July 8th and 9th. That's next week. And there's some different things this year.
Yeah, there's no Big 12 media poll.
What are we going to talk about for a month? No
preseason. The ADs and the coaches said, no, we're not doing that anymore. You know why? It's embarrassing how bad they've been.
Yeah, they've been awful.
They've been so off.
How bad were they last year?
Arizona State was picked to be the worst team in the league, and BYU was like 9th.
13th.
Oh, 13th.
Even worse.
Yeah. It's
just, Colorado was 11th, and they all tied for first.
No, I know. And Utah was picked first. That was also way off, right? They finished 13th. So the people that are going to go represent BYU, which is fun, Chase Roberts, LJ Martin, Keanu Tanavasa, Isaiah Glasker, and Jack Kelly.
Those are all A-listers.
Great guys, great interviews, bright guys. That should be fun, but no preseason media poll. I think that's good.
Yeah, I do too. At first, I was like, "What?" Because they're fun to talk about.
But it's such a guess, and
it's
sometimes
a total guess.
I feel like sometimes the teams pick to be 16th, and then they're handicapped in the national polls because their own league's picking them 16th, and it takes longer for them to get ranked higher. And I think that kind of stuff, where you start, has an impact on your ability to get in the college football.
And
playoff.
without Scadaboo, let's be honest, people aren't sure where to put Arizona State.
Who knows? They're good elsewhere, but man, Scadaboo was something special.
Around the corner, July 16th, the Chargers report to training camp. That's the first NFL team. That starts at all. BYU reports July 29th, the same day that we report for after further review, the season premiere.
That's fitting. And
on
then
the 29th. And you know what will be the big story? Who's throwing the football right at the start.
Who's doing what? And then July 31st, the Lions and the Chargers in the first NFL game, the Hall of Fame games on NBC that day.
Listen, when we wake up tomorrow morning, we can say
we're
it's
in
this
football
month.
It's football month. The players report, All this stuff, football month.
Sylvia's in from Wisconsin on the live stream. Says, hey, sorry I'm late. Sylvia, we're glad that you're with us. And you can always go to wiseguys.com and watch the whole thing.
Watch the stuff you missed.
And you missed some really good stuff.
Yeah, because Jay was in talking about the whole Jake thing and all that. So you got to go back and listen to that another time, Sylvia.
We'll have more football and basketball news a bit later in the show that you're going to want to hear. Also, our Cougar Board question of the week's coming up. Our next guest tonight might be the smartest person that we've ever had on this show.
Mm-hmm.
That's saying a lot because we've had some smart people. He's a BYU grad that was behind the DNA boom with Ancestry.com. He's currently the president of Eddie, one of our Wise Guys sponsors. An honor to welcome Jared Price to the show for the very first time via Zoom. Jared, welcome to the Wise Guys.
Hey, Dave. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Everything's going.
Things are good. We got
Crazy.
a bunch of questions for you. It's been it's hard to believe. It's really been the summer of so much stuff.
And it hasn't been anticipated either, has it? It's been like, whoa, that's a curveball. There's another curveball. But I would say in the balance, though, there's been way more good news for BYU this summer than bad.
Much.
So much good news, and so that's good. So
Jack's in on the stream from Gilbert, Arizona. We got the whole world here listening to you.
That's right,
tonight, Jared, because they knew you were coming on the show.
That's great.
Had nothing to do with the quarterback situation.
No,
they knew you were coming
they came
on
because Jared was coming on.
So look, you're a game changer when it comes to genetic testing, which transformed Ancestry.com into a multi-billion-dollar company. So if I were to spit into a tube, what could you tell me about myself?
A whole lot. We could probably tell you all of your close ancestors back several generations. We could tell you within, the last 300, 400, 500 years, kind of all the countries that your family came from, and maybe even some migration paths in there. Quite a bit.
Yeah, have you done, Dave? Because I've done it.
I've used
it. Yeah.
How did you figure out that?
How in the world? Hey, if we do this, we can do that. How did you? Yeah.
That's a very big question. Starts with just spitting in a tube, and it turns out that genetics works, and you guys get your parents' genes, and they contribute certain genes to you in certain quantities, and we can measure all that, and we can see over time kind of which genes you inherited, and run a bit of math and some advanced machine learning, and we'll spit out those results for you. It's not too bad.
That sounds simple, but it's all way above my head.
It's pretty complicated. It takes certainly several years to figure out the right algorithms to apply and all that, but we've been working on it for many, many years and gotten pretty good at it.
That's pretty cool. During your 5 years at Ancestry, you're overseeing that DNA department. They became the largest genetic testing company in the world.
Correct.
Would you ever believe that genealogy would be that popular and that lucrative when you were working on all of this?
Actually, believe it or not, yes. I'd been in the industry for a while. I had done some work after my undergraduate at Harvard Medical School, and I've been studying genetics for a while. And I did my master's thesis on genetics, and I actually wrote some of the algorithms that combine DNA sequences to give you kind of the full DNA sequence. It's called genome assembly. That's what I did my master's degree on. And so, yes, absolutely, Blaine.
All right.
And I thought we had a product that could really change the world. That's why I got really excited about it. In fact, one kind of interesting tidbit of my background, I was working on my PhD at BYU, and in about halfway through that PhD program, you get a master's degree. And while I was working on my master's degree, I'd started at Ancestry DNA, and I said, look, this is the project I want to work on. I know exactly where this needs to go. And so I started interning there while I was working on my master's degree, and it was going so well, I actually had to stop the PhD. I said, I have to go do this project, and went there, and we sold 22 million of them in 5 years.
Wow.
I'll tell you a story about how I knew it was getting absolutely huge. Is we had an engineering team that I oversaw that was in Ukraine, and we flew out there, and my cab driver in the Ukraine knew who we were, and like very legitimately. He's like, oh, you guys are the Ancestry DNA guys. I've seen your videos. I've seen how you're like connecting all these families. So it was pretty big even in Europe, and it was crazy. It was utterly crazy.
Well, I think that confirms you are the smartest person to ever be on our show.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you've just
it might be Blaine. That could be Blaine. I mean, I hate to say that in front of you, Dave.
Jared, I have to tell you, I have a lot of useless information up here. Just sitting and watching all these sports for all these years, up in the booth or courtside and all that. So there's tons of useless information that can fill a lull in a game, but not anything useful that can change the world like you have.
I've traveled with him for 30 years. I can testify. There's a lot of useless information up there that I've heard. We're thrilled to have Jared Price, president of Eddy, on Wise Guys, presented by Eddy, HR and payroll software built for small businesses. See how Eddy can serve your team at eddy.com. By Brady Plus, supplies plus support. Learn more at bradyplus.com.
And by Mountain America Credit Union. Apply for your BYU credit card featuring a $100 bonus at any Mountain America branch or macu.com/BYU Visa. Remember, the deadline to sign up for the BYU visas tonight. Midnight. So get it done. And let's not forget, Wise Guys distributed by the Deseret News.
So when we were teasing your appearance on the show this past week, and we said, you've got to hear this to believe it, this connection between you and one of the greatest players ever to suit up at BYU. So DNA testing isn't the first time you've done something game-changing for so many. As a young missionary, you're called to serve in Croatia, part of the native land of BYU Hall of Famer Krešimir Ćosić. He died in 1995. But in what ways does his legend live on over there?
In just absolutely unbelievable ways. Like, I remember when I first went there. So to be clear, like, serving a mission in Croatia is a wild experience. It's very much like serving a mission like in the very first days of the church. I mean, nobody really knew who we were.
Yeah.
I served a very unusual mission. I loved my mission. But it was unusual. So it wasn't that far after the war, and so most of our church houses were like riddled with bullets, and there were grenade holes all across the street and all kinds of things, and they hadn't had the money to really repair since the war. So my first church building, where I spent most of my time, like the plaque, like all around, like the church building was just like riddled in bullet holes. So they had been through just unbelievable horror. And, the gospel of Christ was unbelievable to those people. And Kresho, we owe everything to him. Kresho opened the country. He became the deputy ambassador of the United States. He convinced the government to allow the missionaries into Croatia in the first place. And, every person that I met in the church, they all knew him. Everybody knew him. Our district president, some of the highest leadership in the church, they were all former basketball players. Ivan Balic, I remember spending a ton of time with him, awesome guy in Zagreb and in Zadar. And, he was a basketball player, a teammate of Kresho's. And we heard Kresho stories all the time. He's a legend there, and for good reason, much bigger heart, than he was, a big man, and he was tall, but that guy just, he changed my life in significant ways. I feel a lot of gratitude to him.
After your mission, your role at BYU in 2006, you take a job teaching Croatian at the MTC, and one day you get a phone call. Yeah,
that was a wild experience. So after my mission, I taught the Croatian language for 5 years, and that's as much as you can do at the MTC. I don't know if you know how that works, but you can't do it forever. I was making $15,000 a year, right?
Right.
Something like that. So I think they give you kind of a 5-year time limit and then kick you out. And I was kind of on my last couple months, and the church called me and invited me to participate in the translation of the Book of Mormon, which was wild because, of course, Krešimir did that. Krešimir is the one who translated that along with a Catholic priest who agreed to help him. And that was just wild. It's kind of like, sometimes there's events in life that just feel like they're destined to be, and for me that was one of them. It's just unbelievable.
How satisfying is it, this group of translating the Book of Mormon in Croatian? Krešimir, Catholic priest, 2 other people, and you. What's that feel like to be in that group? That's a starting 5.
I don't know, man. It's wild. I just came to have such an appreciation for just the amount of brilliance in the Book of Mormon, for lack of a better word. It's just, when you go through it at that level and you're like, I have to get every word right. It's like, it's not even just conveying meaning. It's like every single word has to be right. you just come away from that a different person. It's just, that it's a miracle, and it was just an honor and a privilege to work on it. And I had some great people alongside me. I had, a native Croatian that was translating, and I was kind of representing the English language side on that project. And then we had a member from the church translation department, and the three of us would meet every couple of days and do another chapter or two. And yeah, it was amazing. It's awesome.
Jared Price, president of Eddie, is on the Wise Guys Tonight live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Let's go back to March 4th, 2006, before you started the project. You're at the Marriott Center the night BYU retires Kreshimir's number 11 jersey. His family's on hand. You're already tied to him because of the mission.
Yeah.
And then you go on to join him as a translator of the Book of Mormon in his native language. Like, could you ever imagine to that? And what did you think about that?
Oh, it was just awesome. Took the family, took a bunch of friends from the mission, and obviously attended that in person. And it was just an amazing experience. His wife was there, kids were there. Anna gave a just beautiful tribute. There was a wonderful tribute video. I believe President Monson as well spoke at that. And no, it's just beautiful. His story is just it's just insane. He comes over to BYU. He's taught by Hugh Nibley essentially, and other great BYU scholars. And there's that famous quip he gives of like, there are 100 reasons I shouldn't join the church, except there's one reason I should, and that's that it's true. Right?
Yeah.
So he goes through with it and joins. And the thing about him is he was such an incredible missionary. Like, I don't think the church in Croatia really would have, been stood up at all without him. All of the early members of the church were like basketball teammates and other people that, Kresha was such a just nice, big-hearted, generous guy. He couldn't help but talk about it. It changed his life and helped him out. And so in just the perfect spirit of missionary work, he just shared what he loved with his friends, and his friends were touched by that. And anyway, it was an awesome night, absolutely awesome night. See his number retired, very deservedly so. One of the greatest basketball players of all time.
So for Cougar Nation, which is around the world, if you get a hold of a Book of Mormon in Croatian, you'll see Jared's name in there somewhere. It won't be next to the three witnesses, but it's on one of those pages, right?
Yeah, silent credit in there somewhere.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, our friend Travis Hansen convinces you to leave Ancestry to join Eddie in 2018 to try and make life easier for entrepreneurs and business owners as you shift from DNA to really a different part of DNA is how business works. How does Eddie do that?
Man, so many ways. Like I always tell people, the way to learn about Eddie is just start high level. So what Eddie's going to do is it's going to help you run a more efficient company. It's going to help you be more profitable. It's going to help you build a better culture. It's a company around helping entrepreneurs. That's really what it is. And then, as you delve into each layer, you'll learn more and more that Eddie can do for you. We laugh internally because we have so many customers that still, a year later, a year and a half later, wow, I learned this new thing that Eddie can do. I didn't know Eddie did that, The way we think about it is, we just want to help people build great companies. Like that's the way we think about it. You guys know Travis, you know how entrepreneurial he is.
Mm-hmm.
Our whole team's kind of like that. It's like the thing that gets us motivated is we just want to light a fire and help entrepreneurs do what they want to do. And so we handle payroll, benefits, insurance, time off tracking, clock in, clock out, and a million other things, compliance, all kinds of things. And we do that through a combination of both software and services. We always say, we're a little bit, biased, obviously, but we think we have one of the, best technical teams in the whole world on this project. We're the team largely, at least several of us, that, built that Ancestry DNA product. And, we know how to build consumer software at scale, consumer software that's easy to use.
Yeah.
And what we saw early on is just, man, this business software is terrible. I mean, Travis had founded 5 different companies, and he's like, I can't operate, one of them, let alone 5 of them well, And so we needed something that was like, how do we just make this massively easier? And that's really what Eddie was born out of. And then the one other thing I'd mention just about Eddie's founding is, one of Travis's mentors really early on had told him that business is the most charitable thing you can do. And that really hit Travis hard. It hit me hard when we talked about it when we were first talking about starting this company.
Yeah.
And it's, if you have a business, it's self-perpetuating. If it's truly like a profitable business and it does good in the world and it helps people, it's kind of a self-perpetuating way of blessing people's lives. And so really for us, it's about that. Like, how do we help somebody who wants to start a business be successful? And how do we make it easier for them? That's what it's all about.
Nice.
Yeah, we this thing, when Dave and I and Jack, who's our executive producer and partner, decided to do this, we're just like, what we want to do? We want to shine a light on people that are doing positive things that have ties to BYU. Not just a sports podcast, but, let's shine a light on good things, all good things BYU. And that's why we're pumped that you guys are a title sponsor, because that's what you're doing. So Wise Guys is, this combination is really good for us. And we feel goodness at so many levels as we interact with you. And you guys are doing great things. So not only are you a sponsor, but we get to shine a light on people that are doing great things, and you guys are doing that.
Thanks. Really appreciate that.
All right, now are you ready for 5 questions? This is the grand moment. Jared Price on the Wise Guys tonight, presented by Eddie, Brady Plus, Mountain America Credit Union, distributed by the Deseret News. Before we get to that, here's a football question to set the tone.
Oh, yeah.
So your last 3 undergraduate years at BYU, football team goes 32-7. John Beck, Max Hall, quarterback while you're there. How much fun was that? You rarely left feeling bad because you lost.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. I remember, that play where I believe it was Max Hall who, I think it was against Utah, hits that like that turnaround touchdown pass right at the end of the game. Like, that was unbelievable.
It was a great time. That's a couple of great quarterbacks. So
yeah.
Great quarterbacks mean lots of wins.
So 5 questions for Jared are presented by Strategy Square. Boost your company's social media presence with Chantal, a BYU grad who can be found at strategysquare.co. Here's where we turn the tables and find out more about you.
Yeah, this is how people know who you really are, okay? And you can't really think about it like, Jared, I want the first thing that comes into your head, Jared. Okay?
And look, somebody on the stream, Adam, says no one loves customers more than Jared. So I believe your coworkers are locked into this show.
I don't know, maybe that's a company they work with. Well, Adam Smeltzer says no one loves customers more than Jared. So
if anybody does, it's Adam.
There you go. Okay, we're going to start with this. Your favorite sports movie?
Oh, geez. Probably Rudy. I'm all of 5'7", so you got to see a little guy be out there and win.
So, hey, I still get teary-eyed every time I watch Rudy. So, first of all, the music's so good when he just keeps coming back and he's not on the roster and he's sitting out by the lake there. And Dave and I have been to Notre Dame to do a game. And
we were with Rudy.
Yeah, and we were with Rudy. He came out and the fans still remembered him. Listen, when he came out at the end and walked in, the real Rudy, and people start going, Rudy. I gave me chills. It was pretty awesome. That's a great one. Okay, your favorite singer or band?
Oh, geez. It's actually Ben Rector. Have you ever heard about a guy named Ben Rector?
Yeah, I have heard of Ben
Feels
Rector.
Like we have.
He actually played at BYU one time at the Marriott Center. That's where I actually was introduced to him. Anyway, he's awesome. You should get to know him.
Yeah, I've heard of Ben. We've had some of our athletes come on and give us bands. I was like, I've never heard of that. I have to go look up. But I always do go look it up. But I have heard of Ben Rector. So
okay, all right,
great. Okay, this is a really important one. Your favorite breakfast cereal?
I'm gonna go Apple Jacks.
All right, that's classic.
You know what? There's Apple Jacks.
It's got apple in there, so you can almost kind of act like it's healthy. It's not. It's full of sugar.
What? Are you kidding?
Well, I'm gonna tell you somebody whose favorite cereal is Apple Jacks. The late great Danny Plater.
Danny Plater, I love that.
That was so. He always came to our house on Sunday for a snack in the afternoon. He'd kind of wander the neighborhood and come by. And he had his own container of Apple Jacks up in our cupboard and his own thing of milk in our fridge. He would go into the cupboard, get a spoon out in a bowl, and have a bowl of Apple Jacks. So, and he was a phenomenal wide receiver for BYU.
Hey, do you remember the song? Do you remember the jingle?
The Apple Jacks one?
A is for Apple, J is for Jacks, cinnamon toasted
is Apple Jacks, cinnamon toasty. That's where it's at.
Come on, Jared, you're not that young.
I'm just going to say I'm younger than you guys. I did not remember the jingle.
Apple Jacks is a fine cereal. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Your favorite BYU moment?
Oh man, there's so many. Okay, I'm going to go back to this one. It was way back. So when I was 11 years old, I believe it was 1990, Ty Detmer beat Miami, #1 Miami,
Yep.
at LaVelle Edwards Stadium. I was at that game. My dad took me to that game, and I still vividly remember, probably one of my earliest memories, me and my brothers and my dad just storming the field, going crazy. I mean, Miami felt like they were just unbeatable, right? It seemed like they won the national championship every year back then. So that was awesome. That game was fun.
So what do you learn about your dad when you're 11 and he's storming the field with you?
That he's awesome. Likes to have a good
course.
time. He's competitive, likes sports. You know, those are good things.
That's it.
As a boy growing up, you want that.
Absolutely.
I still contend, Jared, that that's the best team BYU's ever beaten. Because
It was unbelievable.
They played some pretty good teams, but they played some teams like I'm not gonna lie. In '84 we go back and we beat #2 Pittsburgh on the road, but they kind of fell off that year, and that's happened a few times with teams. But that Miami team went and finished in the top 10, won another national championship. Like, that was a very good football team with a whole team full of NFL draft picks, and BYU punked them at home.
Yeah.
That was a great game.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was fun.
I think that game really probably set the stage for Ty winning the Heisman. I think
Yeah.
like, that game just was like, whoa, that was an unbelievable performance.
Yeah, it looked like he had eyes in the back of his head that game. He was so good. So,
All right, here comes number 5.
now this one is like, maybe this is the most important one because how you answer, you got to be careful. So, what's the favorite advice that your wife Stacy's ever given you?
You guys are all coming up stuff that's going to make me emotional. Honestly, I'll tell you, I'm going to give you a little longer answer to this one a little bit.
It's all good. Yeah.
One of the reasons I married Stacy is because when I first met her, I just knew how kind she was. And not only kindness, but especially kindness to those who were like suffering. Like, you know, she would talk about, you know, people that she visited in the hospital and just how she wanted to take those things away from them. She's always had a really soft heart for people that are going through hard things. And so I think that's the best advice she's ever given me, is just to love those who really need it, who are having hard times, and be there for them.
That is good.
Good advice. That's
Yeah,
advice for
that's a good
everybody
one.
listening tonight. Hey, Jared, we're proud to have Eddie as a title sponsor of the Wise Guys, and we understand that you met our next guest who will join us in a few minutes. John,
true.
by the way, when you were 9 years old, this is kind of like a walk back in time. First you're 11 storming the field, and now you're 9 when you meet John. How did that meet and greet go?
Yeah. So I knew he was going to become famous for his humor because, like, my dad, he probably won't even remember this, but maybe he will. You might ask him. So my dad is Dan Price, and he was in the bishopric, the student bishopric of John Bytheway's ward.
Oh.
And he was hilarious back then. So I'd go to some of those activities, and that guy would crack me up all the time. I'm like, that guy's going to write books. He's going to be famous. He's going to be funny. He's going to like, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So
It's good stuff.
Tonight he's going to give us his 5 favorite pieces of advice.
Yeah.
From all that stuff that he's got going on.
Yeah.
that'll be worth hanging on to listen for.
Okay.
Hey, we welcome you to the family here with Wise Guys and with Eddie. We salute you on helping translate the Book of Mormon into Croatian and link together with Krešimir Ćosić like no other BYU fan we know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
that's a
saying
unique
something.
one. No one's going to steal that one.
No. Hey, did you spend most of your time in Zagreb, or did you get down to Dubrovnik and Split and some of those?
So, yeah, one kind of interesting tidbit of my mission is I spent most of my mission, about half my mission actually, as the branch president because the church is so small there.
Oh, wow.
So I was the branch president in Split. I was the branch president in Osijek, which is kind of on the eastern side. And then I spent some time in Zagreb as well.
Very nice. Like we were over in Croatia last summer, the summer before, and went all over and absolutely loved the people, and it's one of the best kept secrets. Dubrovnik was fascinating to me too. Like, I just couldn't believe that city. I felt like it was in the medieval times, but it's such a beautiful city. Yeah, what a great place and
Croatia's
what
one
great
of a
people.
kind.
Yeah,
It's just gorgeous. I don't know if you noticed when you're out there, but you can stand on the beach and you can basically see the bottom of the water on those coasts.
it's so clear. We leased a, I guess a yacht is what we leased, a whole group of us, and we went out to the islands, and we'd pull into an uninhabited island in a cove and just swim off the back deck, and it's beautiful. It's an absolutely gorgeous place, and all those coastal cities it has this real maritime feel, almost like Maine does in the United States. Yeah, we loved it, and the people there were very gracious and very kind, and they were nice. They thought people from the United States were cool. which I thought was
That's
great
good.
too.
That's good.
They're by nature extremely friendly.
Yeah, what a great place to serve and really open up a country. That's awesome. So thanks for being with us tonight, Jared. It was great to have you on.
Thanks, Dave and Blaine. It was a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Jared Price, president of Eddie, and BYU guy, church history guy, just all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, he's got ties to Krešimir Ćosić that nobody we've talked to has ever had that kind of a depth of a tie to him.
No.
Where they basically are the two of the most important people in translating the Book of Mormon into Croatian.
Let's do our Cougar Board question of the week just before John, Bytheway, joins us. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans. Thousands of posts every day. It's been hopping today and yesterday and certainly through this Jake story. This question comes from Black Diamond Bay, one of the insider subscribers, and she asks, do you think the length of Jake's suspension, which we have seen to be reported as 7 games, was excessive?
Here's how I would describe it. I'm not trying to be just completely politically correct, but it was more than I expected it to be. I thought it might be like 3 games or something like that. So it was more than I expected. But you and I don't have access to everything that they looked at behind the scenes. And I know that there was a lot that was looked at and looked into before they came up with that. Yeah. And they felt like that was appropriate. So I'm not going to question it. But my honest answer is it's longer than I thought it was going to be, but there's more to it than we have.
There usually is.
Yeah, there's more to it than we have access to. And so I know the people that are involved in that decision, and I trust them implicitly.
And I think it's important to clarify. A 7-game suspension for Jake. He wasn't kicked out of school.
No, he was not.
For honor code violations. He was suspended 7 games, which he could stay in school. He's already graduated, take some more classes, stay at BYU and write out the suspension and then see if he can play in those last 5 games as opposed to just you're out.
Right.
And that's on the national scene, that's kind of what it'll sound like. You know, they kicked him out but they didn't kick him out, and it's his choice to move on because he wants to salvage a full
he wants a full senior season.
And let's be honest, they're talking to teams, Notre Dame, Northwestern. We've heard of a handful of names of guys who really could upgrade some quarterbacks. Let's not be surprised if he lands at a place where we go, are you kidding me right now?
No, and believe, like, we're not going to say, are you kidding me? Because we know who he's talking to and we know who teams are interested. So he's got some irons in the fire at some big time programs, and so we're not going to be surprised, but you guys might be surprised when you hear. So
all right, our next guest is an educator, author, broadcaster, sports fan, and BYU grad. We love having him on the show because he's inspiring. Happily, we welcome back John, Bytheway, to the Wise Guys. I understand that traffic to our lair was a little more challenging here tonight.
Shout out to my son for Father's Day. Bought me an express pass.
Oh.
I bet that saved me 15 minutes. So way to go. Thanks, Andrew.
So Dave and I have told this story before, but John, one time we were doing a game in
did you bring happy things we're supposed to say about you again?
I brought a handout, baby.
My goodness.
Oh,
So Dave and I were doing a game in Hawaii. But it wasn't a BYU game. Weren't we doing UNLV at Hawaii?
It could have been. I
think we were doing a game at University at Aloha Stadium, and we didn't account for how crazy the traffic. Like, it was literally a gridlock traffic jam. We could see the stadium, but there was a chain link fence and an irrigation ditch and a huge parking lot between us and the stadium, but we were sitting there. And now we were like 5 minutes from when we needed to actually record the open and do some stuff. And we were in a panic. My cousin, who was at BYU Hawaii at the time, Michelle, was with us in the back seat. And we both looked back at the same time, like it just came to us both, and we said, Michelle, you're going to have to drive the car and park it. Here's the parking pass. Here's where you go. Dave and I are going to take our stuff, dressed up in suits and ties. We're going to climb that chain link fence. We're going to go through that irrigation ditch, which
like a scene out of McCae.
Only had a tiny bit of water in it. And we're going to hike across that parking lot, and we're going to go start this game.
And we did.
And we did it. Yeah. And Michelle, as fast as she could go, got into the parking lot, came in with her pass. She got there just before halftime.
Oh, man.
That's how bad the park. So
look, a lot of tailgaters at Hawaii, they don't come for the game. So they're still out there.
Yeah,
the congestion's out there, and so you got to get through all that just to get to the stadium. But hey, we got there, and we haven't had a story ever. I like 1996.
Yeah, that was. Like that. But we know what it's like to come in after having been in traffic, to sit down and just be on the show.
So have a drink of water.
Just ready.
So just take a deep breath and don't even worry about it.
When you can walk faster than you can drive.
It's not
the
good.
last time you were on this show was April 2nd, 2024.
2024.
Yeah, last April. What have you been doing?
Oh, same thing. We did a podcast recording today, our one I do with Hank Smith. Follow him, interviewed President Steve Lund, outgoing Young Men General President, and he was awesome. And whenever I see New Skin up on the scoreboard,
you think it's Steve?
At Miller Park, at Lavelle Edwards, I'm like, hey, that's Steve right there.
There you go.
He's a good guy, and he lives not far from here. And so it's fun having him in this neck of the woods.
Yeah. So lots happened since April 2nd, 2024, especially with BYU sports. So BYU football goes in 11-2. Basketball goes to the Sweet 16, which is
so fun.
Like nobody thought either cross country, men and women both win national championships, which is crazy. James Corrigan just won the national title in steeplechase. How much fun has it been to be a BYU fan, which we know you are during this period of time?
It has been awesome, and I'm texting Jerem and Spencer. We're texting each other, and what a blast! I love seeing these young people just succeed and represent, and that's why I'm a fan.
If you had to pick a top moment, what was it?
Of the year?
Yeah.
I'm going to come to it. It's the end of the Oklahoma State game.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
Have you heard that stadium that loud, like in the last decade?
No, it was so. The way it happened, just bam, bam, bam. And, the Utah game was, I love hearing, his name, the kicker, come on, Will Ferrin.
Will
Ferrin. I loved hearing okay, where do you want the ball? Hey.
I don't care.
Doesn't matter, it's going in.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, he's got a mentality.
That's good stuff.
Like, he's got the best mentality. Most kickers, John, the whole team knows, hey, big moment's coming up. Nobody go near that guy. Like, don't talk to him. You don't want to rattle him because he's already crazy to begin with. Like, don't. Yeah. Somebody starts walking over to him. Guys grab him. Like, don't go near the kicker. With Will, it's like, he's just a regular dude. He's part of the team. Talk to him. Do whatever. Nothing phases him. How nice is it to have that guy kicking again this year?
I was on a cruise ship. I think was that in October? The Utah game.
It was early November.
Or was it?
Because we were 9-0 going in.
Yeah.
We're 8-0 going in.
And I paid for the ship Wi-Fi, which is your right arm and everything.
Yeah.
And it must have been Eastern time or something, maybe 2 a.m. or something. And I'm listening, and at first, the BYU was up at halftime, I think,
and then things kind of
they went the other way, and that kick, I could not sleep. That's when I'm texting Jeremy and Spencer. Like, okay, can't sleep now.
I think the big question is, what were you doing on a cruise during football season?
Come on,
I know that was bad timing.
Yeah. So, BYU's also landed 3 huge recruits. So you got Brock Harris, who we talk about Ryder Lyons. Brock Harris may have as big time on NFL potential as anybody that had in this program for a long time. Yeah, the big tight end out of St. George. McCae Madsen, who can play running back or linebacker, who just also is ranked that he was first team All-American in track and field. He's like a great discus thrower, right? and one heck of a human being. We had them both on the show. And then Ryder Lyons now recently commits. The thing I want to ask you about is these are huge recruits for BYU, and they've all announced, hey, we're going on missions.
Yeah.
How important is that, and what message does that send?
I love it. I'm coming down here. I'm talking to my son Timothy, who's in Uruguay, because it's P-Day. And he just got a new mission leader named Todd Santiago.
Oh, yeah.
Brother of Brian Santiago. Yeah. And so I love that connection. But the students that I've had, the one that you guys both know, David Nixon, a long time ago. Just love having those guys represent what that does for them, a mission, and that sense of priorities in life, I think.
And it seems to send a message to, these are 4- and 5-star kids.
Yeah.
The 2 1-star and no star regular guys like me, this sends a message that if those guys will take time out and serve a mission, why can't I?
Right. And so I love them talking about it and it being public and publicized on ESPN or whatever. He's going to do a mission trip or whatever
whatever they call it.
Yeah, they call it a mission trip.
trips.
You know, it's interesting to me. It feels like somebody has to be the person that breaks the seal or the glass. I don't know what the appropriate term is. Maybe you guys can give it a better term. But it was always thought, like when I was playing, well, you play quarterback, you can't go on a mission. Like no quarterback has ever come back and played effectively at that position. Because, and you think about it, Elder Nielsen, Gifford Nielsen, Mark Wilson, Steve Young, Jim McMahon was a member, Robbie Bosco. It was just
Gary Scheide.
Yeah, Gary. It just doesn't the skill set is just too fine a skill set. You go away from 2 years, you just can't come back. You can't do it. And I don't think we give Brandon Doman enough credit. Brandon Doman is the first guy, and guess what? When he came back from his mission, they acted like, well, you can't. As your return, he can't do it.
John Beck.
Yeah.
John Beck.
But Brandon, like, you can't do it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll play on special teams. I'll play wide receiver. I'll do whatever. And then he finally gets his chance, and he's awesome. Yeah. And he goes and plays in the NFL with the Niners. But now John Beck, Max, like now,
Taysom Hill.
But there always has to be a first person to do that show you can do it. And now it kind of feels like the seal's broken. Like no matter what position, it's like, yes, I can go off and do this. Brock Harris, hey, Chad Lewis, he's a Pro Bowler. Dennis Pitta, he's a Pro Bowler. Like I can do it. How important is it to have like that first person that takes a chance and says, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna serve the Lord, and it's gonna be fine.
Isn't that great? It's kind of like that idea of, we've heard President Benson's quotation a lot. President Nelson recently restated it. Men and women who turn their lives over to God will discover He can make a lot more out of their lives than they can. Yeah. And this is just kind of evidence. And the Corrigan young man, right? He talked about that. He talked about coming home from a mission. The endurance you got to have to do. But was it steeplechase that he did?
Yeah, he's steeplechase.
National champ.
And to come back and do that. And I can't remember who was interviewing him about how much did you run on your mission. It's kind of not that much.
Not a lot.
Yeah. They're like, you can do it, though.
Yeah, you can do it.
It's great to see. We're thrilled to have John Bytheway on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus Eddie, Mountain America Credit Union, and distributed by the Deseret News. Looks like Jake Retzlaff's time is over at BYU as he's moving on in the wake of a turbulent offseason. From a fan standpoint, what do you make of all of it as you've sat back and watched it?
It's just tough. You know, I feel bad. I feel bad for him, for the team. I understand. I support the honor code. You know, it's all of that stuff. So I'm really glad for what you just said a minute ago, Blaine. We don't know the whole thing. Above my pay grade, you know, those guys that are gonna talk to him and the investigation and everything. But like I'm sure you guys, hey, wish you luck, Jake. Yeah. Wish you the best.
Yeah. And you think he's been through a tough time. There's been others that have been through really rough things here and elsewhere. When you counsel young people facing challenges in life like this one that Jake is now in the middle of, well, maybe he's on the backside of it, hopefully, for Jake. But what do you try to emphasize that keeps him hopeful?
The one of them is coming up in my little top 5 here. That I love this. I think I saw it on a refrigerator. It said, no one can go back and make a brand new beginning, but all of us can begin where we are and create a brand new ending. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is what it is. And then you got to look forward and say, okay, now what do I do? And we are believers in repentance and forgiveness and moving forward and starting fresh. So start where you are. Let's deal with it. Let's move forward. Mm-hmm.
There are going to be some big storylines when BYU reports to camp on July 29th, which is like 29 days from tomorrow. That's how close we are. And who's going to be the number 1 quarterback is now the top of the list. Season opener's coming up August 30th. So what are you most looking forward to this season now that we kind of know this is how it's going?
Oh, man. I'd love to see Chase Roberts have another amazing season. It's our running back, 24, changed his number.
L.J. Martin?
L.J. Martin. I'd love to see that guy have. I feel optimistic about.
They have weapons.
Offense.
They have weapons. Yeah.
As I'm hearing you guys talk about the quarterbacks, and I'm hearing you, I'm going, there's some good guys with experience coming in, like McCae.
Yeah.
So I love watching football. It's my favorite.
No cruises is fun. You're not doing a cruise this fall. You can't do a cruise over the Utah weekend?
As we learned from Vicente, I work for Vicente to pay the bills, as we learned from Princess Bride, right?
There you go. That's right.
Sometimes you got to work for
Sometimes you got to go do it.
To pay the bills.
We get it.
I don't think that means what do you think that means?
You keep on using that word.
Yeah. What was the word he was using?
Inconceivable.
Yeah, inconceivable. I don't think that word means what you think it means.
You keep on using that.
So
Jordan on the stream says, love to follow the podcast with Hank Smith. Of course, it's super popular all over the world. And Hank spoke last night at the patriotic service at the Marriott Center.
Yeah, we were texting. Yeah.
Right in the middle of his talk, you were texting.
Right. He said, send up a prayer. I said, done. We're doing it. And so he even told me what he was going to talk about, and we talked for a minute and everything, and that was fun for him.
But people text us in the middle of games all the time.
Yeah, people are texting me right now.
Dave and I are calling games. People are texting me. And no, we'll go to a commercial break, and I'll know that it buzzed, and I'll look at it, and I'll be, and then I'll answer that, and then they'll say, "You're in the middle of the game. Why are you answering it?" I go, "Why are you texting me? What do you expect me to do?"
I may or may not have texted Dave a few times during baseball games, right?
There you go. But you never brought me nachos.
Well, have you texted Spencer and Jeremy in the middle of a Sports Nation?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they respond.
I feel left out. You need to text me in the middle of a live game in basketball this year.
I'll do it.
Okay.
This is such an amazing week around here. Again, last night with Hank at the Marriott Center. It's the Freedom Festival and Stadium of Fire Friday night, parade in the morning. And you're a very patriotic guy. What is it about this country that you love the most?
Oh, man, don't get me started. I got to that cruise. I think it might have been that cruise. I got to stand where the green was, where Lexington and Concord, and I researched that whole battle and showed them, and these farmers out there, and here come the British regulars. They say that the redcoats are coming, but it sounds like the research says they were saying the regulars are coming. But I had a little clip from a movie that shows how they could hear the snare drums of those marches, and you're just a bunch of guys standing there, and here comes this huge, experienced regular army. Yeah. It's pretty cool to think about that, and Paul Revere's ride, everything. So I love that. But I was thinking about that. I thought, if you guys ask me, I just got to shout out to Seaman First Class Jack Bytheway, who, under kamikaze attack on the USS Saratoga, stayed at his post and fought for his life. That's my dad, right? He was on a Quad 40 anti-aircraft gun on the Saratoga, and they were attacked by kamikazes off Iwo Jima.
Wow.
19 years old. Not a member of the church at the time, but he was introduced to the church on the carrier.
Really?
Well, he grew up in Salt Lake City, so he knew about it. But some guys grabbed him and said, "You're coming to church with us." It's like the 4 men brought in a bed, a man taken with the palsy in Luke 5. It's that story, but it's these 3 buddies from South High School. And
said, "You're coming to church.
You're coming with us." And so that helped me just throughout my life. Dad stayed at his post. Stay at my post.
That's where you got your toughness?
Yeah, that's where it all comes from. Yeah. A lot of people ask me that, Dave. So.
And that really brings home to you that people have fought for our freedoms here in the United States, and we're very fortunate to, and we need to honor them this week.
One of the great moments of Stadium of Fire is, and the one children's choir is going to sing the national anthem.
Oh, nice!
And then the flyover, be helicopters this year.
I think it's
Air Force is kind of busy.
Nice. Yeah, the Air Force, the F-35s have a job right now.
Yeah,
but they're singing. Everyone's singing the flyover, the fireworks, and you just can't bottle that moment. If you could, you could sell it to anybody. But there's just something about it.
And I love when you look in the hymn book at the Star Spangled Banner, we end on a question mark. And when you go home, read the last verse, because it ends in an exclamation point. The Star Spangled Banner is saying, hey, can you see by the dawn's early light what we hailed at the twilight sky? Does that Star Spangled Banner yet wave? Or the land of the free and the home of the brave? Question mark. And we never answer the question. We play ball. But the last verse answers the question. The Star Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. And so it's kind of a fun thing to read that and see. Let's answer the question. Let's answer it from verse 3.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Ryan on the stream says, if he was on a cruise during the Utah game last year, maybe we need to book him a cruise during every Utah game. Yeah. So how about that?
Like, you've heard that saying, I'm not superstitious, I'm just a little stitious.
Yeah, a little. I'm somewhat stitious. Yeah. As long as I can watch.
If you were off and that meant there was a win, maybe we need to send you off again.
Oh, man, I just hearing Greg Wrubell. Yeah, that was so fun.
The whole world is waiting for our next 5 minutes. Or 10, or however long we feel like taking.
That was a tough assignment, guys.
Our 5 questions for John is presented by StrategySquare.co.
John, you handed us.
I gave you a
7.
handout.
Yeah, we said top 5. He comes in.
I come up with 7.
That's how comfortable he is on this show.
Because 7 is the number for completeness and perfection in the scriptures, right?
Tonight, taken from the pages of his multitude of books, talks, podcasts, and movies.
All of which available at Deseret Industries in the 4 for $1 bin.
Or DeseretBook.com.
Who's our distribution partner?
Putting them out of print one at a time.
Here is John, by the way's top 5 pieces of advice, which I believe is going to be 7 here tonight.
It's a top 5 starting.
Including a
number
handout.
7.
Is there a test after this?
I just thought, I got to get this down so I don't mess it up.
But we get to take this with us, so Dave and I can review it.
Right. See the disclaimer.
We can plagiarize this at church.
Yeah, see the disclaimer? If I want to keep my job, I better. You should expect to hear some sports and some scriptures.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
That's why we shop here.
All right. That's what our people out on the live stream. Lots and lots of people are going to download this podcast. This is what they want.
So we're going to go from 7 to 1 instead of 5 to 1.
Yeah, we're going to count up. Do a count up.
Let's start with number 7.
Okay, love this quote. Don't know where I heard it. Most of these I heard this somewhere. Don't put the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket. It's great advice for teenagers. Well, he didn't say hi to me today, so I feel rotten. Or he did say hi to me, so I feel great. Well, the happiness has got to be an inside-out job. So when Mormon wrote to his son Moroni, look at that verse there. Notwithstanding their hardness, let us labor diligently. It's not about what they do. It's about
what we do.
About what we do.
Yep.
And don't fall victim to, and even in sports, we got to be the vicarious heroism of the sports spectator. I read an essay called that in high school. I never forgot that sentence. It's a pretty good sentence. If my team wins, I'm somehow better than you are, or something like that. And we can buy into that. So we gotta. We
face that every Sunday morning after the Utah.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do I feel about it? And is my brother-in-law going to make fun of me because he had nothing to do with it? Don't buy into this vicarious heroism of the sports spectator. However, BYU's different. You know why? Because BYU's different. Because I've had some of these students, and I love these guys. I've had them as students, and so I want them to do well. Because when you know some of them, it just changes it.
Yeah, you root for them. It's funny. People ask me what my favorite team in the NFL is, and I'm like, well, I really love the Chiefs. And they go, oh, did you grow up a Chiefs fan? No,
just Andy Reid.
Just Andy's there.
Andy Reid's there.
And wherever Jamal is, wherever Taysom is, wherever Tyler is.
My fantasy team.
Right. It literally is.
Yeah. I want to see these guys succeed.
Team I grew up with, I grew up in New York. It's the New York Giants. I don't even follow them anymore. I'm rooting for the kids that I have a personal interest in now. And you're that way, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So don't put the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket.
That's number 7.
You're responsible for your own happiness.
Okay, we're off to a good start.
Right.
It feels good. Feels good.
Okay, number 6.
Number 6. When you pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other. My dad used to say that, and it's an old saying, but the idea is, and I actually had this made when I was a bishop.
Oh, does it say that on it?
Yeah. You pick up one end of the stick. Where's the camera?
It's right here. You're on this one.
I pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other. And I used to use, I used this to talk the deacons, I can do it. No. But what is this teaching? Well, when you make a choice, you get a consequence. Mm-hmm. Now go to the Korihor story. What's he saying? There's no devil, there's no hell, right?
Yeah, there's no choice.
There's no consequence, there's no life after death. And so what happens in Vegas? What's the answer?
Stays in Vegas.
Yeah, that's there's no consequence. It's not true, right?
That's not true.
And another way to look at it, which is kind of fun, I keep rotating it, is an if-then statement. You're sitting here, I'm sitting here because of a if-then statement a long time ago. If any of you lack wisdom, then implied, let him ask of God, right? Now we're all sitting here in a place called Utah. I just drove through Lehi because of that. And that's amazing. We're here because a 14-year-old boy said a prayer.
Yeah.
And there's if-thens all over in the scriptures. Watch for them. And so this is great advice, especially for young people. If you can be able to see choices will bring what consequence. And so Elder Maxwell said, I put it on your handout here, Blaine.
Yeah, thanks for that.
We must want the consequences of what we want. One of the ones that I love here, the fifth one down there, we can't read all of them, I wrote too much.
Right. But we'll read them later.
There's two kinds of pain in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons.
That is,
that good?
Yeah, it's really good.
This is interesting. That it is very timely of this week. When we were talking about Jake and his situation, and the situation is from 21 months ago, and 2 months ago it wasn't on anyone's radar and life was fine, and then here came a consequence, and it just changed things in an instant, and I had no idea that would come back.
Yeah, and I did not write this with that in mind at all. I just love that.
Very timely.
That statement. And I wanted to put at the bottom because we always want to give hope, right?
Right.
That one of the things we don't often read in the Bible dictionary is the Bible dictionary in the back of our scriptures. But man, there's some gems in there. First paragraph, the word repent. In fact, I show this to my students. I'll put the word repent in big red letters on the PowerPoint and say, first word comes to your mind. I'm being scolded. It's a finger-pointing thing. Yeah. But this is what the Bible dictionary says. A fresh view about God, about oneself, and about the world.
That's true.
Now, how positive and nice is that?
Yeah. It is great. I just was talking to my brother-in-law, who's a bishop right now, and we were talking about, I served up on campus in a bishopric, and we were talking about how the repentance process it's not... You're going to pay your penance and you're going to do that. It is a joyful thing. The repentee, or the person that's repenting, is laying their burdens on Christ, and they're coming for help, and
which He asks us to do.
And then He takes away all of that pain, and hopefully, if you're in a great ward with a great bishop, then we're going to surround you with this great scaffold to help you move forward.
Because we all need it. We all need repentance. So Scott
we're
Runya,
a congregation of sinners, aren't we?
Yeah, Scott Runya, right?
Right.
Long time ago, basketball. His wife, Sister Runya, in General Conference, what'd she say? It doesn't add to his burden, it adds to his joy when we repent. He invites us to repent. So we got to have some hope in there. And maybe you've picked up a stick and the other end, well, what do? You move forward. You repent, you get a fresh view about God, about oneself, about the world. You begin to make a brand new ending.
All right,
and then the statement you made for us right at the beginning is
there.
Right here in 6. While none of us can go back and make a brand new beginning, all of us can start from where we are and make a brand new ending.
Yeah.
I love that.
So now the pregame show's over because now we're to the top 5.
Yeah, now we're actually in the top 5.
So here we go.
Those were great, but they were honorable mention.
I couldn't whittle it down, right?
Okay, so what's 5?
Okay, you've heard it a million times, but it's such good advice. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And when I used to do a lot of junior high and high school assemblies, I still do some, but I'd love to have kids come up and say, tell me about the person in your school that you most respect.
Yeah.
And then I'm careful in how I choose my words. I didn't say the most popular. And sometimes they can be the same.
Right.
But my question was, who do you most respect? Oh, well, don't tell me their name, tell me about them. And I get this every time I've done it. Well, they'll say hi to you if they're alone, but they'll say hi to you when they're with their friends. It's about how nice they are. Everybody likes them. Everybody respects them. They're kind of, my words now, tall enough to see over the walls that divide us into friend groups and compartments. And when you respect somebody, what do you always hear? He's the nicest guy. I've heard that about you, Blaine.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I've loved people to say that, but
yeah, I think Dave told me that. So, but anyway, so you've heard that before. But then this is something that Elder Holland said that I just love. Be kind after this great talk he gives on the laborers in the vineyard, and be grateful that God is kind. It is a happy way to live. So we extend grace to people. We allow each other to mess up and to do better, and we're kind.
Can I add a song to this one that just came to my head? Because everything to me is a song, right? It's all a song.
Good.
Humble and Kind by Tim McGraw. Have you heard it?
No.
That's a good one.
Have you heard it?
Yeah.
I
He
know-
sang it
I know
a
it, Tim
couple times.
McGraw's.
Yeah, hold the door,
Stay
say please, say thank you, don't steal, don't cheat, and don't lie.
So as you're on your way home,
great.
you should just
Yeah, listen to that song
Listen to that.
because there's some really cool messages in it
will.
about being kind and when you've made it, help the next person in line, help them up, all that. It's really a good song.
Wow.
So Tim McGraw, humble and kind.
I will.
So
all right.
okay, number 4.
Number 4, 3 words. Okay, this verse. First, I'm going to preface this by, do you remember when we used to have the manuals that were presidents of the church in Relief Society and
Yeah.
priesthood?
Yeah.
Okay, the one that is Gordon B. Hinckley. Somebody asked him, he says in there, do you have a favorite verse of Scripture? And I think he said something like, it could be this one, or, he probably wisely said, well,
Maybe this.
yeah. And it's this section 50, verse 24. So I'll read the whole thing. That which is of God is light. And he that receiveth light, receives an action word, and continueth in God, receiveth more light. And that light groweth brighter and brighter until the perfect day. So that advice, that piece of advice, continue in God.
Those 3 words.
Those 3 words is such great advice because people come up, they are confronted by a question, a doctrine, a policy, something. And the danger is, don't unplug. If you want more light, you don't unplug from the source of all light. Don't discontinue God. Don't look for light in the dark. What's the song? Looking for love in all the wrong places, right? You don't look for light in the dark. So continue in God while you are wrestling with that. And that's why I love the advice. So President or Elder Jeffrey R. Holland, I still think of him as president because when I was at BYU, he was President Holland.
We see him, we accidentally, I just saw him during basketball season. I walked over and gave him a hug, and I'm like, President Holland, and I go, and he goes, he says the same thing. He said this to Dave one time too. He goes, that's my favorite, what do you say? It's my favorite calling I've ever had.
President of BYU.
To be president.
Yeah.
So when you call me president, it takes me back to one of my favorite times in my life. So you can call me president. So
that's so nice.
Yeah, he is so sweet.
So I was going to say he gave a classic talk, but that does not narrow it down with Elder Holland, does it? Because all his talks are pretty classic. But he said in this talk called Lord, I Believe, when those moments come and issues surface, the resolution of which is not immediately forthcoming, hold fast to what you already know. That's another way of saying continue in God. Stand strong until additional knowledge comes. Now, I was trying to think of a sports way to say it. Have you ever heard this phrase in sports, dance with who brung you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the things that have brought you the success you've had so far.
Yeah.
And
don't change quarterbacks in the first
you dance
quarter.
with who brung you. I don't know who the coach was that said that, but I love that idea. Do what has brought you where you are. If that's where your talent is, do that.
We are enjoying John, by the way, on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus Eddie and Mountain America Credit Union. Wise Guys distributed by the Deseret News. John is enlightening us, as he always does, with his 7 most favorite pieces of advice.
Right, and we're ready for number 3.
Number 3, I used a golf quotation that has so many applications. The only shot that matters in golf is the next shot. Now, why would that be?
We tell ourselves that all the time.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't help when Dave and I are out playing golf. But
we have to find our ball
But because
first.
if you dwell on the struggles of the past, or if you're thinking too far ahead, you can't execute what's right in front of you.
And people make fun of it and they say, oh, that's coach speak. But if I were to ask any coach, hey, what about that game coming up 4 or 5 weeks away? What are they going to say? Well,
we got a game this week.
We're just going one game at a time.
Well, and what does Kevin Young say? We're just going to stack practices on top of each other.
Stack victories.
And and I'll tell you, I think there's no bet. If you play corner in football, you have to have the shortest memory ever, because you're going to get a touchdown thrown over you.
Yeah.
Because a perfect route with a perfect throw beats perfect coverage
it's the
every
next
time.
play. I'm glad you brought that
but
up.
you can't be going, oh no, because guess what? You got to line up and stop him from getting the 2-point conversion. Right. You got to line up the next series, and you got to just focus on what you're doing, covering the guy right in front of you. I think you have to have the shortest memory when you play that position.
Yeah, I love that. Application is perfect. And when in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 6, Jesus says, take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, which the King James translators mean something. But what I love about this is that all of the other Bible translations, other than King James, don't use the word thought. They use the word worry. In our Bible, it says Greek for anxious concern. So you can think about tomorrow, but you don't worry about it. And have you had Craig Manning on here before?
I don't think we have. You know,
we had him on our podcast, and do you know who he is? He's the sports psychology guy.
Yeah, we need to get him on.
He's a former tennis pro.
We were talking about getting him on, and a couple of people from the sports performance department would be really fun to hear what they do with all of our athletes. Yeah,
because I just think there's such application for that. Even though I haven't played a second of college sports, but Craig Manning says this is how I define worrying and thinking. He kind of differentiates them. Working is allowing our minds to attend to the future, which is fear, and the past, guilt. Thinking is attending to the present. There's your next shot. Focusing on what needs to be done from one moment to the next, minimizing the anxiety that is often built up. And he gives an example in the book of a tennis player that, like you said, Blaine, is going over this last point I lost and can't get past it and say, it's the next point right now. And in golf, same thing. I'm not going to think about the sand up ahead. I'm not going to think about the bogey back to the snowman. That's more my golf, right? But what do I do on this shot? And so I love the idea.
Good.
And we have hymns that sing this. Today, while the sun shines, it's about today. Right. Have I done any good in the world today? Or should I sit here and regret that I didn't do very good on my ministering last month, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, but go do it today then. Yeah. Right? So today, work while you may. You know that song. And the last thing I had here that I was excited to share, because I will never forget this. I have never met Riley Nelson, but he's one of those guys that I respect.
We've had Riley on the show.
Yeah, because it was the game where he was put in at the end at Utah State. Right. Remember the game?
Mm-hmm.
And he leads a couple of drives, if I recall right.
Yeah, game-winning touchdown pass.
Yeah, and he had an abundance of hair in that game. I think he
was flowing.
Yeah, it was flowing.
It was blowing in the wind.
Yeah, it was awesome. But remember that last pass? It was like, what, J.J. DeLuigi like tipped it or something?
Yeah. It got tipped, and then
it was Mitch Matthews. Just talk about being where you're supposed to be, right?
Marcus.
He's right there.
It's actually Marcus,
Matthews'
brother.
Mitch Matthews' brother, right?
Yeah.
And it just, boom, comes right into his hand. And he said people were trying to, chest bump him, and he felt like he'd broken a rib earlier in the game, so it just seemed kind of twist. It's really funny. But they asked Riley Nelson afterwards about that, and he said, I was like, wow, I got to write that down. He said, my attitude is you have your toe on the sideline, you got your head in the game, and you're physically prepared. And so when Bronco was get in or whoever,
Riley needs you,
toe on the sideline and totally ready, head in the game, jumped in. I thought that
sounds like Riley.
That's a next shot.
Be in the moment, worry about today. I think people always say to me, how in the world did BYU come back against SMU 20 points down with so little time left? And what I think is, because Jim McMahon wasn't worried about being down 20. He was worried about
the next.
This next play, we got to go down, and then we're going to do this and this, and we'll score.
Yeah.
And then we'll worry about the next drive.
Yeah.
Because then the defense is going to have to make a play. But I feel like he just approached every play like, hey, this is a big play. Let's make this play. And that led to another play, and then they score. And now they're down by 13.
Yeah.
And then they're down by 6 or 7. 6 actually, and then they win.
Miracle Bowl.
Yeah, you can't worry about being down by 20. You got to worry about going and executing immediately. And I feel like they
what's right in front of you.
More than any other game I've ever watched, I felt like that team had that, where they're just like, who cares that we're down by 20? Let's just go execute. So
see, and that's one of the things I love about sports psychology is it's life psychology too. It's kind of like there's no such thing as a temporal commandment. They're all spiritual. This all works together.
Everywhere.
Right?
Yep. So, okay, number 2.
Nephi says, he's like, we got to get out of Dodge. We got to leave. And they do. And he starts over in 2 Nephi 5. And he says a lot of things in 2 Nephi 5. One of them is, I taught my people to be industrious and labor with their hands. It was a work ethic thing. But then he says, we did live after the manner of happiness. And I love that phrase, because happiness, therefore, is a way of life, not a destination. And if you're working with young people, we do it too. Mm-hmm. As soon as I graduate, then I'll be happy. Right? Yeah. As soon as I get a job, then I'll be happy. As soon as I get married, then I'll be happy. Okay?
As soon as I retire,
have kids, then I'll be happy. Yeah. As soon as these kids leave, boy, then I'll be happy. Right? As soon as I'm a grandpa, then I'll be happy. You keep
Oh,
putting
that part
deadlines
is
on
true. That part
It
is
is
true.
a
Yeah,
blast.
we can say that. Yeah, that is something to look forward to. That's one of the few things that really is all it's cracked up
It
to be.
is so fun. So I have 3 now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
It's so fun.
Sage and Sybil and Adeline, and it is a blast. I'm like, bring those kids over, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's so fun.
but don't put deadlines on your happiness. And Nephi's like, no, it's a way of life, and you will have ups and downs.
Yeah.
We all do.
So
But figure out what that is. So Elder Holland again, your best chance for being happy is to do the things that happy people do. Live the way happy people live. Walk the path happy people walk. If you do, your chance to find joy in unexpected moments, to find peace in unexpected places, to find the help of angels when you didn't even know they knew you existed, improves exponentially. You gave that talk at BYU.
Yeah.
Isn't that great advice?
So
Yeah,
should I give him my mom, Mama Fowler's advice? She used to always tell us, happiness is not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's all along the way.
Nice.
Like quit
Yeah.
going like we got to get over this thing. You got to enjoy every moment all along the way. Take time to smell the roses, she would say. But happiness is not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's all along the way. So.
Now the gold is good. As you're happy all along, and then you're at the goal, and then you're just happy. Then you're
happy always.
with the gold.
Yeah.
So you're just
You're
happy
happy
the whole
always.
time.
It's
Yeah.
a way of life.
Yeah, man are that they might have joy, right?
Yeah.
Men are they might have
And
joy.
my favorite word in there is joy, and the most interesting word I think is might. It might not.
Might not.
But you're gonna have ups and downs. I have a great story there, but I don't know if we have time. Do we have time?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm in my ward. The Sister Clark gets up, says, "Okay, when we were living back east, kid knocks at the door one day, fills the frame of the door, and is Chris here?" And the little kids let him in, and they run to the other room to tell mom who it is. It's this guy from school, her words, and he's kind of a thug. And she's, So she peeks in the other room, and they're talking. I think his name was Lorenzo or something, and they're talking, and everything looks fine. She's like, this looks fine. Well, this kid just keeps showing up at the house to the point where, do you want to stay for dinner? Hey, it's Young Men's, the church, you want to come with us? And he just becomes a friend of the family, and then eventually it's going to happen. What do you do tomorrow? Well, would you like to come and worship with us? Why don't you come with us? Love to have you. And then it becomes, I want to be a part of your church. How do I do that? And Sister Clark is like, I better call your mom. So she says, we've loved having Lorenzo over here. He's become a friend of the family. He would like to join our church. I thought, I would love to talk to you about that. I thought I'd better talk to you. But how do you feel about that? And she said, oh, that's great. My dad wouldn't let me join a friend's church when I was young. He can join your church. So took the lessons and everything and joined the church. Well, fast forward. Chris graduates from high school, gets a mission call. Lorenzo graduates from high school, gets a mission call. Gets up at his farewell and says, my brother was in prison, and I was doing some of the same stuff. And with the same people probably, right? And I didn't want to go to prison. I didn't know what to do. So I decided I'm going to find the happiest kid in my school, and I'm going to become his best friend. And I'm going to do everything he does, and then I can be happy too. Knocks on Chris's door.
Wow.
Now, the cool thing is Chris did not know he was the happiest kid in the school, but he was living after the manner of happiness. He had his ups and downs.
Yeah.
He was trending that way. And she says, yeah, he's home from a mission now, married in the temple, a couple of kids. So I love the idea of the manner of happiness, and that you can kind of see.
Yeah.
He did, and that changed his life. Okay, thanks for letting me tell that story.
That's a great story.
Amazing.
It sets us up for number one.
Yeah,
There you go.
And don't we all want to be around people that are happy?
Yeah. And
We gravitate to it, so let's go to number one.
There's Elder Holland. Do the things happy people do. And that's exactly what this kid did. That's what reminded me of that. Okay, number one. I thought I better use the youth's theme for this year, right? So what is it? It's Doctrine and Covenants, section 6, verse 36. Look unto me, Christ is talking, look unto me in every thought, doubt not, fear not. And I think it was Joseph Smith who said once, doubt and fear cannot exist in the mind at the same time as faith.
Yeah.
And so you push doubt and fear out, you have faith. Now, this is the cool thing. Brad Wilcox, first counselor in the Young Men General Presidency, was honored by the BYU football team. You guys were probably there before the Oklahoma State game. And because he's a great, religious educator and has probably taught a lot of the players.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard this story, but the team said, give us some words of advice. And he said, doubt not, fear not.
He's got to believe.
And they started chanting it. And what happened at the end of that game? We were down.
Darius Laster got open from 35 yards
goodness.
out. That's what happened.
I have watched that pattern going, how did he know? Jake know where
We're still not convinced
that
he was throwing it to Darius, but
yeah, because there's a couple of guys over there, right?
We think he may have overthrown and Darius happened to be there.
The good thing is Darius got there.
And then he does that little juke and he's in the end zone. And I just thought, wow, doubt not, fear not. And,
that's good.
And that's, it's kind of like, what did President Nelson tell us? The joy we feel has less to do with the circumstances of our lives and more to do with the focus of our lives. And that's kind of that verse too. And here's a President Hunter quote: if our lives and our faith are centered on Jesus Christ and his restored gospel, nothing can ever go permanently wrong. On the other hand, if our lives are not centered on the Savior and his teachings, no other success can ever be permanently right. So there's something really nice about the message of what we focus on right there.
Do we need to write an essay on all this? And what time do we have to turn it in?
I have notes.
I have a little multiple choice.
I have notes.
There's going to be a quiz
and
on Friday.
do we have to know all 7 or just the top 5?
I may or may not have been thinking about this at church yesterday, all right?
That's
so
all
I was
good.
Thinking, what do I say? And I don't want to people to say.
Hey, we'll give him a review. Let's give him a review, Dave. Don't put the key to your happiness in someone else's pocket. When you pick up one end of the stick, you pick up the other. There's choices and consequences.
Good.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I feel like that is a formula for great coaches.
Yeah.
Right? So it applies to a sports team. Great coaches, the players will do whatever they want when they know they love them and they care about them.
Run through a brick wall for Kalani,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Number 4 is continue in God. DNC 5024. Number 3 is the only shot that matters in golf is the next shot.
Yeah.
Focus on today. Focus on what you're doing. Second, Nephi is number 2, or 2 is from Nephi. We did live after the manner of happiness. So seek after happiness. Be happy. Enjoy the road
do what
along the way.
happy people do.
Yeah,
That's
don't keep saying I'm going to be happy when.
One day.
Just decide to be happy, right? And number 1 is look unto me, and that is Christ. In every thought, doubt not, fear not, from DNC 6:36. So
7 most favorite pieces of advice from John Bytheway. By the way, no pun intended, Kevin says on the stream, where is it right here? Remember, Brother Bytheway, speaking in Farmington, New Mexico a long time ago. Thanks for all you do. Farmington, New Mexico.
Yep, been there. It's been a while. I bet he knows a helicopter pilot down there that works for the sheriff's department. And just because he said that, I forgot. He wrote in one of my books in Supersonic Saints, but he was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam and wrote a beautiful chapter about how his faith and his testimony helped him through.
Before you got here, Jared Price, the president of Eddie.
I know. I noticed you didn't introduce me as the smartest guy you've ever had on the podcast.
Yeah, listen,
you're right up there. You're right up there.
You're right up there.
When
but
he started
hear
talking
he
all
did?
that DNA stuff and breaking down the sequencing and coming up with, I was like, oh my goodness,
He
we're in the
moved right up
we're in the
list.
presence of like crazy intellect here.
So he said he met you when he was 9.
No way.
His dad, Dan Price, was in the bishopric of your BYU ward.
Dan Price. That's right.
And so
imagine that. Was that the Riviera or was that Carriage Cove?
I don't know. It was a long time
I remember
ago.
that Steve Young lived in Carriage Cove back when we were in school.
A lot of people over the
Jim
years
Herman, Lee Johnson,
have got
Carriage
me
Cove.
and Steve Young mixed up.
Yeah, they do.
Such a
Well, it's happened
and
again
I tell
tonight.
people, watch the hands. I'm right-handed. Steve's left. That's the giveaway. Other than that, it's pretty tough.
Here's the thing you only hear here. Steve's actually right-handed.
Really?
He
just
writes
throws left?
right-handed. He kicks right-footed. He golfs right-handed. He only throws left-handed.
Wow.
I don't know why. And then the crazy thing is, his younger brother Mike is left-handed but throws right-handed.
No kidding.
So if you don't think they're messed up, they're messed up.
That's funny. They should be drummers.
They're fascinating
Ambidextrous.
folks.
Yeah, it's a little like, how does that happen to 2 people in their family?
You can find John teaching religious education at the BYU Salt Lake Center, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't take the summer off. You're fully engaged.
Took the summer off.
He's taken the summer off.
I teach
so
usually fall, winter. And David Stock is the name of the helicopter pilot. Man.
Oh, there you go.
Stock.
Forget that. David Stock.
His books are everywhere, including Deseret Book,
Industries,
Amazon, and DI. And you can listen to his Follow Him podcast with Hank Smith, wherever you get your Wise Guys podcast.
Yeah, they're all there together. Yep.
Yeah.
It's right there.
We cross promote for each other.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
So
and
fun.
thanks for making the
this.
drive down and being with us, and because we know that wasn't fun driving in that traffic.
No, I was listening to you the whole way. So
I have to repent when I drive in traffic from Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Because I say some really bad stuff. Like, I don't swear, but I think really bad thoughts about people. I don't like them.
I remember when they were widening those freeways, I thought, this is going to be great.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I
Then it
think
just got more crowded.
Next time we come out, I want you to come. Maybe it's the sports performance people. How I can calm myself down with people that I do call them idiots. And I don't even know these people, and I'm mad at them when I drive.
I may or may not have been that way.
See, this was good. When we invited you back, you said, "What could I possibly say?" I was on a year ago, and I was like, "Wait, we're just getting started with you."
Hey, all right.
We're just glad you'll come hang out with us.
It's not lost on me that we're between seasons, but I'm thrilled to be invited.
So you're saying April and late June, there's a reason that you're here?
Basketball's over, football's over, and baseball's
Mark
over.
Axel just said, "What a great interview. My brother and I would listen to a John Bytheway tape when in bed going to sleep."
Hank and I talked about this today. It's one of the comments we get the most is my kids go to sleep to you, and it's not, and we always take it as you go to a safe place.
Yeah.
You know?
You can, your advice is calming. It clears their head and it makes them think happy thoughts, and then they go to sleep.
Instead of watching a murder show and going to bed,
Much
you
better.
go to a happy place and it helps you calm down.
I should stop reading Twitter before I go to bed, because I don't go to sleep.
It's like the evening news. Right before the news would come on at 10 o'clock, be the worst possible scene ever from the NBC show, and then would pop on, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah,
and it's
hey,
like,
how you
this
doing?
is just not working.
Yeah.
We'll see you next June then, if that works with your
let's do it.
with your
When you're off, it's the best
off-season.
time, right?
Yeah.
So
All right, the great John, by the way, here
thanks,
on the
John,
Wise
for
Guys.
coming.
You're so nice.
We didn't get to throw the football today,
But we did last time.
Yeah,
that-
we did.
that
And we
meant a lot to
recorded
me.
it, and then we posted it.
I love
yeah,
it.
it was
And
fun.
he never looked more athletic.
It was so fun.
That was
So I couldn't find quite the spiral in the first half of the Illuminati game, but in the second half, the magic came back.
Oh, you guys, it's so
fun.
are a blast to watch.
great. Yeah, it's a good time.
So cool.
It's all good. All right. Okay.
Thanks, John.
Safe travels back.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
And
much.
there shouldn't be traffic, so you don't have to get mad at anybody.
I saw it going the other way, and it was parking lot.
It's all cleared
it's all
now.
cleared
Should be
now.
cleared by now.
It's all
Thanks,
cleared
thanks to
now.
you guys.
Well,
Well,
not, get a hamburger
hopefully a
and-
lot of people were listening to us,
That's what was happening.
and then we talked about the whole part about being happy in all moments. Maybe it's just a better place out there now.
They're still stuck in traffic, but they're smiling.
Yeah,
They're
right,
smart.
there you go.
They'll wave at you. John, by the way, on the Wise Guys, we look forward to his third visit in 2026. Mark your calendars. That's going to be awesome. We've got a lot of football news. We have a lot to get to, and we're going to do it super fast.
Yeah.
We might go over a little bit tonight, but there's so much going on. Chase Roberts, John, by the way, his favorite receiver. I think he made that perfectly clear, and his hopes for a great year for Roberts coming up. Ranked the 8th best receiver by Pro Football Focus for the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, it's one thing to be in a poll, and then it's to be in a draft poll, and that's pretty significant. He caught
Right.
52 passes for 854 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. He's the poster boy for BYU football, and he's going to have a big year coming up.
And one amazing, great human being, too. So I'm going to be with Chase tomorrow. So I get to hang out with him for a couple hours tomorrow.
Some recruiting news. 3-star defensive lineman Lupeti Mawala picked BYU over Utah, UCLA, and Stanford. That seems to be the recent trend. Cougars pick up another key recruit in the 2026 class. Mawala will be a senior up the road at Orem High School.
Yeah, that's another big one. Like there are
more coming.
The hits just keep coming, and it's been really, really exciting.
It's like the Beatles.
This is already the best recruiting class in the history of BYU football, and it just keeps getting better. And there's a few more to come, by the way, that we have a little bit of insight on. So
hang on there.
Stay tuned. We'll fill you in. I mentioned this earlier, but McCae Madsen was named as the California Gatorade Player of the Year in track and field. He successfully defended his state titles in the shot put and the disc. He starts his church mission in Argentina in a couple weeks. He's slated to play running back for BYU when he comes back in 2027. But Remember when he came on the show and he said, "I'll play wherever they want me." I said, "Would you think about playing backer?"
He's going to be linebacker. Right?
I feel like he's an NFL backer.
Well, he could be. It's just a tremendous athlete.
And BYU's had so many good backers. Think Fred Warner. Think Kyle Van Noy. Like, I just feel like he can be an NFL linebacker.
My nephew is going to train him when he gets down to Argentina.
So good.
So we wish him the best. We'll see him in a couple years. BYU basketball, Yegor Demin was drafted since we were together last. How about the 8th overall pick to the Nets? First Cougar drafted since Jimmer in 2011. Highest BYU player drafted since Rafael Araujo was also 8th in 2004. 46th Cougar to ever be drafted into the NBA, and now he's getting ready for his professional debut.
Yeah, and you know what's fun? The highest drafted Russian player in history.
Yeah, how about that?
That's pretty cool. So, should we give him an AJ update?
Yeah, but I want to mention the Las Vegas Summer League debut for Yegor.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's coming up July 10th. Brooklyn against Oklahoma City at the Thomas & Mack Center in Vegas, 3:30 Mountain Time on ESPN2. So Summer League, they're all on TV, so we can watch Yegor on July 10th.
Yeah. AJ, FIBA World Cup, Switzerland. He's playing on the U19 national team. Last week he had 18 points in a win against Australia, 16 in the win against France. The next game is tomorrow, so Tuesday, against Cameroon, 9:15 Mountain on FIBA Basketball, YouTube. Tournament play begins Wednesday through Sunday. So he's getting it done. He's the best player on the team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he is the best player.
I think he's the best player on the team.
Opening week, John Rothstein tweeted out his marquee games for the first week of the basketball season. And we typically wouldn't care about that, except BYU's on his list.
That's right.
He's got November 3rd, Arizona and Florida in Vegas, and also in that same doubleheader, BYU and Villanova on his list.
Yeah, how about that? And number 4, Duke versus Texas in Charlotte is his other. So.
And then November 7th, Kansas at North Carolina, Georgetown at Maryland. On November 8th, Alabama at St. John's at Madison Square Garden. And November 9th, Indiana against Marquette in Chicago. A lot of these games, neutral sites.
Right.
That's the way it's going to be moving forward. Mm-hmm. But BYU has made his big game list for opening week. Yeah. That's cool. We like Rothstein. He's pretty good.
Yeah, and we look at Joel Lenardi, who does bracketology. Mm-hmm. Most of the preseason predictions have BYU like a top 5 or 6 team. Right. Joel Lenardi has them as a 3 seed in the South, facing South Dakota State in the first round, with a potential matchup against Kansas in the second round. A 3 seed, so Lenardi has them a little lower than most everybody else. Yeah. So most people have them a 2 seed.
You want the Kansas game to be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, exactly.
Not day 2.
Because don't you have a feeling Kansas is going to be back?
Yeah, and they got the second best player in the country.
Right.
Some think they might have the first, and BYU got the second, but those two are going to go head to head.
Right. That should be fun. So.
Speaking of the big dance, Pete Thamel reporting a decision on whether or not to expand it. Both the men's and women's basketball tournaments for next year is expected in the next 2 weeks. He thinks they could go up to 76.
Why not?
Hey, I'll watch.
It's fun. Yeah. We all will. We all watch. That's why they're thinking about doing it, right? So, season expansion, the NCAA Division I Council is expected to expand the college basketball season from 31 to 32 games.
Okay.
So,
more work for us.
For BYU, that would mean 18 regular season Big 12 games and 13 non-conference games instead of 12.
Great. I think they should play more. Some say they should go to 40. If people watch.
I like that they're, the scrimmage things now, the super secret scrimmage that nobody knows about, but we know the score. Now they're just like, okay, let's let them have a scrimmage and put it on TV and quit calling it the super secret scrimmage.
Isn't it interesting how football's creeping deeper into basketball season? Now basketball's like, you know what? We're just going to start earlier.
Right.
And so pretty soon they're just going head to head.
Yep.
Women's hoops, BYU sophomore Delaney Gibb is in Santiago, Chile this week, competing with the Canadian senior national team at the 2025 FIBA Women's AmeriCup. 9 points in the win against El Salvador, a couple of points in the win against Argentina. Played Brazil today. Group play wraps up Wednesday against Argentina, and then their tournament runs Friday through Sunday. The winner of this one goes to the 2026 FIBA World Cup in Germany. Of course, Gibb earned Big 12 Freshman of the Year honors last year. Phenomenal player, settling in with the Canadians.
Yeah, and did you see she was at the NBA draft with Yegor and all dressed up? She looked fantastic.
She's put a few miles on this week.
Yeah, she's been traveling all over the place. So let's stick with the women's basketball. New assistants for Lee Camard, the new head basketball coach. He's hired Andrew Curtis and Paisley Johnson Harding to join his coaching staff. Paisley, by the way, I've been following since she's a youngster because Paisley's mom and Brenda were in Cougarettes together back in the day. We're not going to tell what year because we don't want to age them.
Paisley's mom?
Yep.
Okay.
So Curtis comes to BYU from Arizona. He spent the last 9 seasons coaching the perennial high school power Perry and Gilbert. And then Johnson Harding holds the program record for games played at BYU, 146. She ranks 6th in career points with 1,938. She rejoins the Cougars after spending last year as an assistant at Utah Valley.
She's fun to be around.
Yeah, she's great. And man, could she shoot it. And she is really, really fun to be around.
Men's volleyball news, signee Trey Thornton named first-team All-America by the AVCA. Thornton was the star at Maple Mountain High School here in Utah County. Also named Utah's Mr. Volleyball by the Deseret News. He's good, and he's the best, and he's coming to BYU.
Do you know who I saw men's volleyball and women's volleyball at the pool the other day? And I was like starstruck was Brendan Sander, who's a great player here.
Right.
And then his wife, Paige, who's a better player than him, played the U.S. national team and 2 gold medals in World Cup play. And I was like, holy cow, that couple looks like they're in amazing shape and they're really, really tall. And then they turned around and I'm like, oh, yeah. They're phenomenal athletes. So it's kind of fun. Speaking of men's volleyball, men's volleyball contributed to this. The Learfield Directors Cup final standings for all sports came out. And number 1 was Texas. Isn't it always like Texas, USC, or Stanford every year?
Yeah.
So number 1 is Texas, number 2 is USC, number 3 Stanford. Stanford's really slacking these days because they had a grip on it.
I wonder if they couldn't count all 37 sports.
Yeah, it must be. North Carolina's 4, which is a little higher for them than usual. Number 25 is BYU. But they're the highest ranked Big 12 program. Utah's number 60. So BYU,
that's a lot further back.
This is ranks overall athletic programs, and BYU has the best this last year overall athletic program in the Big 12.
It was a great year.
Yeah.
Golf news: BYU golfer Cole Ponich won the Provo Open over the weekend. His first professional win was his professional debut. He won $10,000.
That's not nice. Which is like, think about it. When we play, that's usually the bet. It's 10,000.
It's something.
Yeah.
It's usually a hot dog.
No. It's like. It's lunch at the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So, conference expansion. Southern Utah and Utah Tech are going to be joining the Big Sky Conference on July 1st, 2026.
Okay.
For SUU, it's a return to the Big Sky after leaving the conference in 2022 to join the WAC.
And the WAC's going away. It's getting a new name and disappearing. Freedom Festival events, the best week of the year here in Provo. Wednesday is the Freedom Awards Gala at the Utah Valley Convention Center, where we honor some great veterans, people who've done
hosting that?
Amazing things. Yeah, they people who've changed the world in special ways. And then that same group will be honored at Stadium of Fire. So Dave's hosting that. The Balloon Fest is at 6 a.m. on every day, Thursday through Saturday, over at Fox Field, 1100 North Freedom Boulevard. They had some of those up today.
And I will be there, so I'm hosting that. I'm not hosting it, but I do go to that.
That's great. Those balloons are awesome.
Yeah.
I love the Darth Vader balloon, and now they've got
cool.
a million things. Grand Parade's Friday morning, 9 o'clock here in Provo. The BYU football team's the Grand Marshal.
So they're going to be on a big float, and that's really cool.
That's cool. And then Friday night, of course, Rascal Flats, headline Stadium of Fire. That's at 8 at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. You get more information on all these events at freedomfestival.org. Yeah. Enjoy this week. It's hot, but it's the best.
So and you'll see Dave around. Hope I see you at some of these things. We'll be at Stadium of Fire on Friday night. Hope we see you there. So
on this day, on June 30th.
Yeah, 1908, Cy Young, 41 years old, becomes the oldest player to record a third no-hitter. He led Boston past the New York Highlanders 8-0. The Cubs won the World Series in 1908.
That's unrelated, but it's a note.
But it's a note.
Because it was 1908.
Yep.
1936, Margaret Mitchell's novel Gone with the Wind is published.
Wow.
That's been around a long time.
1938, Superman first appears in DC Comics, Action Comics series issue #1.
That's awesome.
The new Superman movie is going to be here. It's coming out in July.
I'm looking forward to it. July 11th. Yeah. We'll be there. 1953, Chevrolet rolls out its first Corvette on this day.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, by the way, have you seen F1 yet? Formula One?
No. Is it good?
I've heard it's really good. Brad Pitt in it. I want to see it.
Yeah, it looks good.
So when I was in New York last week, they were doing some big promotion thing, and Brad Pitt was there near Times Square. So I'm going to go see it this week. 1962, Dodgers pitcher Sandy Koufax throws his first no-hitter against the Mets.
On this day.
Yep.
How about that? 1965, NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle grants ownership of the Atlanta Falcons to Rankin Smith Sr. for a then record $8.5 million.
What?
The most recent sell of an NFL franchise was the Commanders in 2023 for $6.05 billion.
That would have been, I wish I could have come up with 8.5 to buy one back in those days.
That would have been sweet.
1965. 1970, Riverfront Stadium opens in Cincinnati, the home of the Big Red Machine.
1994, we'll remember this day as pre-trial hearings begin for O.J. Simpson in Los Angeles.
You remember the whole nation was just gripped by that whole thing.
That was crazy.
Yep. 1994, U.S. Ice Skating Federation gives Tanya Harding a lifetime ban for her involvement in the violent attack against Nancy Kerrigan ahead of the 1994 Olympics.
How nuts was that?
There's a movie about that.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called.
It's kind of crazy.
Well, it has to be.
Yeah.
That whole thing was nuts.
The whole thing was nuts. You're
I remember
right.
hearing it on the news
Yep.
as I was broadcaster in Vegas.
Yep.
And I just remember going, what? What just happened?
Yeah.
Someone attacked Nancy Kerrigan and then
Hit her with a bar or
Tanya
something.
Harding
Yeah,
was
you
involved.
got to see the movie. It's crazy.
1999 on this day, the Chicago Bulls picked Elton Brand with the number 1 selection in the NBA draft.
So now we're going to do June 30th birthdays.
All right.
1942, Robert Ballard, the explorer, he discovered the Titanic wreck in 1985.
Yeah, how about that?
1942 was
How
his
does the guy
birthday.
find? How does Robert go? Hey guys,
I don't know.
I think I know where this is.
I think where the Titanic is. It's right here.
On this day in 1966, Mike Tyson, the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history, was born. Iron Mike, born today.
He used to just be a wrecking machine.
I know.
1985, Michael Phelps, the swimmer who won 23 Olympic gold medals, was born on this day in 1985.
23. Yep. June 30th deaths, we acknowledge all those who died during America's fight for independence from Great Britain and the eventual birth of the United States, which we'll celebrate later this week on Friday. So we include everyone in that one.
Before we do guys inspirational quote, I should say on the June 30th, Brenda and Blaine got married, so it's our anniversary.
This is your anniversary
so for
today?
our anniversue, I'm doing the show, and Brenda's playing tennis in Salt Lake City. That's what we do.
That sounds about right. Well, why didn't you say that earlier?
So I just remembered.
Well, look.
No, I've known all day.
There's a couple of shops open. So
you guys, I've texted her several times and told her how much I love her.
Okay, good.
So
all right, that's a lot to put on our show.
Yeah,
to be here during your anniversary.
I know. So
our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week from Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States.
And here's what he said. I like to see a man proud of the place in which he lives. I like to see a man live so that his place will be proud of him.
Could have included that in John Bytheway's 7 favorite pieces of advice.
That's good advice right there.
That's good. Hey, our thanks to Jared Price, president of Eddie, John Bytheway, and Jay Drew started the show tonight with an update on Jake Retzlaff and that situation and BYU moving forward now, looking for a new starting quarterback. And tonight at Deseret.com around 9 o'clock, look for my story. You'll hear from Max Hall, John Beck, and Riley Nelson on what it'll take to get a quarterback ready for the Big 12 opener in 3 months. It's called 3 months to Boulder.
Yeah, and I like that you talked to John, because John's been working with these guys already. So he knows. He's an insider, and he's part of that story. So next week, BYU receiver and punt returner Parker Kingston's going to come on the show. He's great. And we're going to roll out our top 10 moments from last year's football season, right?
Yeah.
We want everybody start thinking about that out there. We want yours too. So and Chef Chad Pritchard, a BYU fan with a gift for cooking, well, he's going to join the show too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Just a reminder, Wise Guys proud to be a Thrive sponsor of the upcoming Eat From Hope Charity Golf Tournament. It's August 5th at Cedar Hills Golf Club, 8 a.m., scramble format. Great prizes, good lunch, just like last year. Starts at 8, as mentioned. All for a powerful cause to help kids in Uganda attend private school. Sign up today at efromhope.org. Get your friends together. We'll see you out there, too, that morning on August 5th. Yep. It's going to be cool. It's going to be hot, but it's going to be a cool event.
Yep. Oh, it'll be hot, but it's a very cool event.
Yeah, that's how we'll do that.
Where are you going to find us this week? Well, Dave is going to be everywhere because he's going to host the award ceremony on Wednesday night. Is it Wednesday night?
Wednesday night at the Convention Center, and then Stadium of Fire.
Then you're going to host Stadium of Fire and introduce Rascal Fats on Friday night. You'll see me there too, but I'll just be watching.
Blaine will be there.
And then we'll both be back here next Monday night.
Yes, I'm doing Sports Nation next Monday morning.
Right. That's
you
right.
should be doing that, and then Deseret News this week too.
Well, I did Sports Nation.
Stops.
I was on Sports Nation today.
I saw that today.
I was
Nice
on
job.
it today.
Nice
so
job.
I should have mentioned that, but I forgot.
Want to remind you, Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus Supplies Plus Support.
And by Eddie, HR and payroll software built for small businesses. See how Eddie can serve your team at eddie.com.
And by Mountain America Credit Union. Apply for your BYU credit card featuring a $100 bonus at any Mountain America branch or macu.com/BYU Visa. Deadline's at midnight tonight.
You got till tonight.
So macu.com/BYU Visa is your go-to spot.
Yep. And Wise Guys is distributed by the Deseret News.
We hope you have a great July 4th holiday. Thank you for adopting us into your family, and we'll come up with some more good stuff. And see you next week.
See you next week.